Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a pleasure to welcome you all here in Mumbai to Moneycontrol and Sutra presents India Web 3.0 Summit 2025, powered by Binance, shaping India's next digital revolution. With 900 million connected citizens, a rising culture of innovation, and a dynamic startup ecosystem, India is well poised to take a lead position in global Web 3.0 transformation. From finance and governance to how we create trust and verify information, Web 3.0 is rewriting the rules. Now, over the past year, the EU launched MICA, the US advanced digital asset legislation. India piloted its central bank digital currency, and state governments began testing land tokenization. With the digital economy poised for a radical shift, we at Moneycontrol are delighted to be hosting this Web 3.0 summit with movers and shakers from the industry, policymakers, and key stakeholders. Now, before we move ahead, we'd like to thank our partners, Sutra and Binance. And now, to set the stage for the conversation ahead, it's my pleasure to invite Nalin Mehta, Managing Editor, Moneycontrol, and Chief AI Officer, Editorial Operations, Network 18, to kick off the evening with his welcome note.
Thanks very much, Shivani, and a very good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to you. It is a privilege to see such a remarkable gathering of innovators, of policymakers, entrepreneurs, investors, and thinkers here today at the Moneycontrol Web 3.0 Summit to explore what I think is one of the most important questions of our time. What will be the next phase of the internet? What will it mean for India? And how can we shape it in a way that works for the Bharat story? At Moneycontrol, our mission has always been to decode change, the forces shaping business, markets, technology, and the economy. And today, as we meet to explore Web 3.0, which is our inaugural event on Web 3.0, and the first serious attempt to sort of put shape to this beast in the room of what Web 3.0 means beyond just being a buzzword. And what is it? Is it real? And what does it really mean? We are in many ways standing at the threshold of a new era, a new architecture of the future that redefines how we create value, how we transact, how we build trust, and define ownership in the digital world. The story of Web 3.0 is not just about new technologies like blockchain, smart contracts, tokenization, or the metaverse. It is about something much deeper than that. It is about a shift from platforms to people, from centralized control to decentralized empowerment. And Web 3.0 is not just a technological upgrade. It is a shift in basic philosophy. It is a move from the internet of information to the internet of value, and from centralized platforms that control data to decentralized networks where individuals truly own their digital identities and assets. This, I think, has profound ramifications for governance and for policymakers, and also for our economy and the way we do business. It is about reimagining how trust is built, not through intermediaries, but through codes, through transparency, and through shared participation. And that's what makes this moment so exciting for Bharat. From UPI and ONDC to Aadhaar and the India stack, India has built one of the world's most successful digital public infrastructures. Arvind Gupta is here. He's one of the early proponents of that. He's written a very good paper for Harvard on that at the early part of DPI. Now, India's decade has shown how technology can be used not only to scale markets, but also to democratize access, to make the digital economy more inclusive, more participatory, and more human. So as Web 3.0 evolves, India's unique digital public infrastructure gives us a massive advantage. It allows us to imagine a new kind of innovation, which is responsible, trusted, and scalable, but also rooted in both regulation and creativity. Now, over the course of this evening, we will be hearing from some of our brightest minds, policymakers, bankers, real estate leaders, crypto champions, the makers of our Web 3.0 stack, startup leaders, and key stakeholders on some of the big questions around Web 3.0. What will Web 3.0 mean for the future of digital governance in India? What will it mean for land, for real estate, tokenization, and monetization? What will it mean for the future of digital currencies, for finance, and for data ownership? How will it transform the creator economy and digital entertainment? How are we really building our Web 3.0 stack, and what does it even mean? And most importantly, how do we ensure that this new internet remains open, secure, and equitable for all? At Money Control, we believe that good journalism is not just about covering change, it is about connecting the dots, it is about sparking debate and helping people make sense of the future. And that's what this summit is all about. It is a platform to decode, debate, and define the Web 3.0 era from an Indian lens, or should I say, from a Bharatiya lens. The first chapter of the Web 3.0 story is still being written, and at a time of great geopolitical flux, India can lead this next digital revolution, not by following global trends, but by building its own path. So I welcome you once again to the Money Control Web 3.0 Summit, where the future of the internet meets the future of Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nalin, for setting the tone for the evening. Now, opening session sets the stage for one of the most defining conversations of India's digital future. Governance isn't just about administration, it's about building trust, enabling transparency, and transforming lives. This is where India's digital story began, and it is where Web 3.0 could create its most profound impact. How governments embrace decentralization and innovations today will shape how citizens connect with institutions tomorrow. I think this vital discussion is Nalin Mehta from Money Control, and joining him are visionary leaders who are turning digital ideas into real world change. Kaustav Davse, Chief Advisor, Investment and Strategy to Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Vishesh Sarangil, Secretary, Special Secretary, Good Governance and Information Technology, Government of Punjab. Please join me in welcoming them as we dive into this transformative discussion.
Thanks very much, Shivani. And we couldn't have asked for a better panel to kick off this evening because what is Web 3.0 if it is not about how it touches people? And the gentlemen here are, their work touches people at a very profound way. Kaustav Davse is the chief advisor to the chief minister of Maharashtra on investments and strategy, very much part of the war room defining key governance initiatives around investments and around the future of Maharashtra. And Vishesh Sarangal is just about an hour ago taken charge as Secretary Good Governance and Information Technology for the government of Punjab. He served in, I think, two-thirds of Punjab's districts. And he reminded me just before we got on, look, I've just taken charge 1 hour before in this department. But he's driving, and he will be driving tech change in Punjab for the next foreseeable future. So let me begin by asking you, Kaustav. We are sitting in Mumbai. The Maharashtra government is working on a framework for the tokenization of land assets. Chief Minister Fadnavis announced that at the Global FinTech Summit. The objective of Maharashtra to be the first state with land tokenization in the country. So what does that really mean, and what will it do for Maharashtra's economy?
Thank you. A very good evening to all of you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Um, Maharashtra obviously is the economic powerhouse of the country. 15% of our national GDP contribution, and Mumbai is the financial, commercial, and entertainment capital. We have already set a very ambitious target of becoming a $1 trillion economy by 2029. We are at about 552 billion right now, and we are growing at about 10.2% CAGR in the last 7 years, barring COVID years. So we are at a very important point in the history of the state in order to make sure that we not only kind of adopt a certain set of changes which are required in order to fire the economy, in order to make sure that we are utilizing our assets effectively, and at the same time making sure that we are laying out a very robust, transparent ecosystem for people to participate in this new journey that we call, Viksit Maharashtra. Now, in that entire journey, obviously there are several pillars to that journey. One important pillar is obviously, infrastructure-led growth, which the Honorable Chief Minister has driven right from the time he took over in 2014. Till date, we have executed more than $39 billion worth of infrastructure projects. You all have experienced the Atal Setu, the coastal road, the Navi Mumbai airport, which is starting in December, the underground and overhead metros, the Samruddhi Mahamarg. So there has been increased impetus to make sure that infrastructure-led growth gets topmost priority. And it is a necessity also because Maharashtra has been a laggard between 2000 and 2014, and that's why it lost out significantly to several states in various areas. The other thing that Maharashtra is very deeply focused on is policy-led industrialization. I'm very happy to say that we have, the highest numbers when it comes to, industrial output, when it comes to exports, when it comes to per capita contribution in manufacturing. It forms a significant portion of our economy, but most importantly, we are driving towards advanced manufacturing ecosystems, and we are making sure that industries, conventional or otherwise, are getting the necessary support from the government. But the reason why I wanted to give this background is because the third piece is technology-led revolution. Now, in that, the most important piece that we have already decided to announce is the fact that we want to become the first fully tokenized state. Now, Maharashtra is taking a lead in this direction, and what it essentially means for all of us is that there is this outstanding untapped potential that we have in our state. The potential of our real estate assets, the potential of, so much of wealth that is, underperforming, so to speak. And if for example, on a very rudimentary level, if somebody needs to, let's say, mortgage his house, typically it takes anywhere between 3 to 6 months for everything to do with clearance of titles and so on and so forth. So what Maharashtra is essentially saying under the leadership of the Honorable Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis is that we will become the first tokenized state. We will create a mechanism and an ecosystem by taking all regulators in place using blockchain technology in order to create a digital asset. So what it essentially means is that your real estate essentially now doesn't just sit in paper, but it sits as an asset which is fully legal, fully verifiable, and verifiable trust using blockchain. What it allows you to do is allows you to use that to monetize. Now, how that will essentially transform into various products and services is a journey that we have yet to take. But this is the direction that we have taken, and it's already been announced.
Vishay, I'll come to you in a second, but I wanted you to. We were talking outside just now, and let's break this down a bit further on what does tokenization mean. The example that you gave of the Sachivalaya building, for example, what does it mean? What does tokenization mean in terms of unlocking monetization value for assets?
See, the whole point is that whenever when you the typical conventional method of valuation of any asset, especially the real estate asset, is a modicum which has been established. There is a valuation mechanism, then there is a verification mechanism, then there is a legal scrutiny of the title. The whole background has to be checked. In many cases, there are advertisements that need to be put in the newspaper. Is if you have any claim, please write to us, so on and so forth. But by putting this entire system on a blockchain backed tokenized network will involve regulatory framework, will involve an exchange of the type that NPCI does for UPI, will involve connectivity across all these ecosystems to create, let's say, a unique identification for your particular real estate asset. Now that asset becomes an value at a point in time, which you can then use to take the necessary financial exposure in order to fund your business. And that can metamorphose into industrial use, into government use, into retail use. So it is essentially a mechanism to make your life easier when you are in that journey.
So, Vishesh, Maharashtra has pinned its colors to the mass, right? That how they're looking at tech-led change and this being a flagship project. That is part of a wider vision for development over the next, say, 4 or 5 years. What is Punjab's view on this? They're very different states. Punjab is landlocked, very agrarian. Politically, on different sides of the divides, but we're not talking about politics today. But how does blockchain and new tech look for you in Punjab from where you sit?
Thank you, Nal. Good evening, everyone. Uh, Punjab has been working for many years now for developing citizen-centric applications. We have been pioneer with eSeva app as well as other applications. Currently, we are having the maximum number of citizen-centric services in Punjab which are online. Approximately out of 846 services that we have identified which a citizen would require to interact with government, 436 services are already online. We have created that ecosystem where a person needs to go doesn't even know need to go to office, a government office. They can directly go into any seva kender, get this application made, track these applications online and get the services delivered. As well as we have created an ecosystem where a citizen can order a service sitting at home by just dialing a toll free number, which is 1076, and the services will be delivered. The person will come to their home, will fill in all the application and deliver the services to their homes. Uh, with this, currently looking at Web 3.0. We are looking at this technology in a way to solve our next generational problems. For example, if I am looking at agriculture, how does pest control and weather patterns affect the produce or the final outcome of my farm? How can I integrate the soil health data that I have with the kind of input cost which is required, like pesticides, insecticides, and fertilizers for soil? Uh, for health, I want to understand how uh, can disease prediction, because we had a very good experience with Kova while during COVID times. We developed that application much before Covin was developed. So Kova app had all the facilities, and which was later on also
You
came
have
into
something
Covin
like
app.
41 different use cases on governance you looked
Yes,
at on
we
AI and
currently have
blockchain, right?
identified
So,
forty-one
can you talk about
use
those?
cases across different departments, spanning from taxation, tourism, agriculture, education, my own department. And these use cases are currently in nascent stage. We have sent the entire spectrum and structure to the concerned administrative departments. They are looking at it, and once they okay the entire system, then we would be able to develop these structures.
Right. Costa, you worked in the private sector. You worked in government at different points of time. In your understanding, what is the biggest gap between blockchain's promise and what policymakers and how policymakers understand it?
No, I believe that essentially blockchain is verifiable trust. It's a technology which is conceived in such a way that it enables you to use it as a layer to make sure that your documents have a certain 100% level of so tamper proof, if I may use the word. Now, blockchain obviously has been known for a very long time. It's categorized as a frontier technology, a fourth industrial revolution, but we have not used or spoken about the other applications that it can deliver. There is one application that it delivers, and that's been talked about a lot. But there are several other blockchain applications that can be used. For example, in government of Maharashtra, we use blockchain-based evidence management system. Now, this has been a historical problem for us, that when the whole process is complete and the case goes for conviction, there have been cases where there has been evidence of tampering of the verifiable evidence that should have been presented in court. So in order to prevent these instances of human intervention after the entire forensic collection has been done, it has been put in a blockchain system. It provides a certain level of certainty, and it makes sure that the whole judiciary and the police enforcement mechanism can make sure that the decisions are right. It's also being used for certification. So blockchain has a certain applications across a wide variety of areas. Government adoption has been slow because of the nature of the conversations that have happened around blockchain. Platforms like these and are very essential for, and especially both private sector and
By
government
that, you mean
officials to talk
move
about.
away from speculation to real.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's much beyond exchanges. It's real, and it delivers, and it also delivers one very interesting product which has been successful in a certain world. But it can also deliver much more than that, and I think we need to focus on the tech that it can help and the problems it can solve.
So I have a question for both of you because both of you work on the intersection of technology, of governance, and of innovation. It seems to me that when Aadhaar was created, when UPI was created, most people didn't understand. People thought it's some kind of, a lot of people didn't understand how it would change the economy completely when the Jam Trinity was created and so on and so forth. Are we at the cusp of the next wave? And how do you see blockchain? How do you see Web 3.0 transforming Indian governance, say, for the next 5 to 10 years? Vishesh, if we can start with you and then.
Uh, Very relevant question. As of now, I believe the infrastructure is yet to be placed, uh, because for us to develop Web 3.0, we need to have that kind of infrastructure where our innovators, where our academicians, where our uh, uh, in the private sector should have a place where they can sandbox, they can test, control, and find a very verifiable outcome which can be generated through these technologies. So currently, we as a country and a state, we are lagging behind in creating that kind of infrastructure. But we are moving forward. We are definitely on the track. Once we have the infrastructure, we have more data centers, more indigenized way of making our applications, we would be in a better position to create these applications. As of now, currently we are at a very starting stage.
Right. Thanks. Kaustubh.
Yeah, I mean, I echo the same sentiment. Um, Web 3.0 brings uh, a, a different set of thinking. It's basically inbuilt transparency, and at the same time, the ability to scale. Most importantly, it provides you to deploy applications which we know for a matter of fact have not been able to successfully solve complex issues. Some of them I've already cited. So my sense is that a very early adoption will help government understand and fine tune it to make sure that we are able to deliver at scale.
So, uh, it used to be once said that the areas where India leapfrogged earlier were areas where the government didn't really realize things were working on those, right? So the question I have for you is that um, regulation is both an enabler and a challenge, right, for emerging tech. So how can we think about designing an enabling regulatory environment that encourages blockchain and Web3 innovation in for deployment of services on large scale for the poor in this country? So how would you, because that's not easy thing to do, and there is a lot of suspicion around that. So how would you think? What would your suggestions be from where you sit?
See, I think we have to move blockchain conversation beyond speculation to the real strength that it has and what it can deliver. It has successfully delivered certain products and services. It may not be mass use for generics across the country, but the technology can deliver much more. Regulation is essential and has to be an enabler. Uh, the way the technology landscape is changing, policymakers like me are struggling to keep pace. And I have to admit this because every single day a newer set of challenges coming. Whether it is uh, delivering a loan on a mobile app, and what's the source and what's the funding and what's the regulatory mechanism to do that. So there is so much of innovation out there, and regulation is keeping pace and is struggling to keep pace. But having said that, I think conversations are happening, and wherever we feel that there is adoption at scale possible and it is helpful for the government, it is definitely a push, especially under the regime of this government. You will see many more areas being explored, piloted, and then concrete steps taken to develop it at scale.
So Vishesh, what's the view on regulation from Chandigarh?
Uh, let me first answer the first part of the question. Uh, Currently, what I see is there's a digital divide, and we have to address both sides of the spectrum. For urban population who are very good with data, who are very good with technology, who understand the technology that way, we can definitely create solutions where people would come in and create new solutions for us, and these can be implemented into our daily lives. For the other spectrum, which is a rural hinterland which doesn't understand technology that way, Web 3.0 has a long way to go. We need to create a more decentralized systems, especially the system that I talked about, like doorstep delivery of services, plus new age mobile application which are there in their own language, the language they understand, which is easy to understand. uh, and then combining on top these two technologies should come together, which for which Punjab is currently developing a state data integration platform where both sides of the spectrum will be collated at one place, and then web 3.0 will be modeled on the top of it. By doing so, we would be able to understand how does interoperability between different departments will work, what kind of services a citizen will require. Let's say if I want to go for a registration of my child's birth, and I want to take a different set of facility with a different department, how does the parameters which I've already uploaded, the documentation which I've already uploaded, can be used by the other department? So in that, regulation will definitely play a role. We cannot regularize it as of now, to the extent, because the technology itself is evolving.
So, Costa, I have a last, I mean, we are running out of time. So I have a question for both of you on this, that two questions really. One, how will blockchain and how will Web 3.0 or blockchain systems integrate with the existing public digital infrastructure like Aadhaar, like DigiLocker and so on? Because you guys have done a fair bit of thinking on this, maybe not the, not down to the last mile, but a significant amount of things. So what's your thinking on that? And B, how much of this is still in the pilot phase, and how fast can be, how ready are we for large scale government applications?
You want to go first?
So, depending on the systems that we have in place, for example, for us, Punjab being an agrarian society, we have a very robust supply chain management system. We already have everything on our e-Mandikaran board, e-Anaj Khareed portal. So these two systems are already there. What we require is a system on top of it, which is talking to both of these systems and trying to find out the most optimized solutions for movement of food grains, let's say from one place to another, for a movement of farmer to take his produce to the mandi. So currently he likes to go to a mandi where he is more comfortable with, but probably there might be a more optimized solution available with that farmer, which we can't see as of now. So the portals which are already matured, these portals are ready to uptake these technologies. For other services, we need some time.
Costa.
I think, for there is a concept in computer science called layers of abstraction. So for somebody who uses technology, you're at the highest level of abstraction, and as you go down, things become more and more complicated. I think for the end user, especially for our citizens, I think what they expect is that whatever we have conceived the application for, whether it is able to successfully deliver at scale. And what we have to ensure that is the construct of the way the application is designed. You said that, are we in a pilot stage? No, blockchain has been piloted and blockchain is now in full-fledged implementation in several applications across the board. My sense is that we have to identify areas where we feel that this particular technology can be a enabler, can it solve a problem. If there is a doubt in someone's mind that yes, this is a problem and it deals with transparency, it deals with verification, blockchain is a perfect fit. Blockchain is nothing but a system to help you verify trust. And I think governments are going to increasingly use it on various areas. I can leave this state by saying that in the next few months, as I was telling you inside, we are sandboxing this entire pilot for tokenization. We are creating mock regulators. We are also creating a mock exchange. And we are going to make sure that how that entire transaction rotates. And then we are going to call all the regulators and show them the real piece of how it works. When we are able to deliver that in 6 months, then we will go full-fledged in the implementation.
I think that's a fascinating idea, and I think we'll all be watching very closely to see the outcome of this experiment or this pilot that you're doing. That's a great note to end this on. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand for Kaustav Dapse and for Vishay Sarangal. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you, Nalin. As India urbanizes faster than ever, real estate, contributing over 8% to nation's GDP, stands on the edge of transformation. Blockchain and Web 3.0 are rewriting how ownership is verified, transferred, and valued. Can technology finally bring transparency, trust, and liquidity to one of India's most complex sectors? From Telangana's pioneering land registry pilots to private sector tokenization model, the shift is already underway. To lead this important conversation, please welcome Devorshi Chaki from Moneycontrol. Joining him are industry leaders shaping the future of policy, markets, and technology. Vinod Rohira, CEO, K. Raheja Corp. Samujwal Ghosh, CEO, the House of Abhinandan Lodha. Reshmi Panikar, Executive Director, Knight Frank India, and Niranjan Hiranandani, Chairman, Naredco, and Founder, Hiranandani Group. Please give them a huge round of applause. Thank you.
I wanted to start with Sam. We were talking just a while ago. Real estate as an asset class is still very touch and feel. So does the idea of tokenization sound a little abstract, when you talk about Indian buyers or investors?
The HOABL tech platform per se, if you have a closer home, was predicated on a fundamental consumer insight that land and gold are two means of creating intergenerational wealth. So predominantly our objective was that how do we create large retail participation in land like gold? And because of the traditional barriers to retail participation, we haven't seen that happening over the years in the country. So our primary objective at that point of time was to convert ownership of land from acres to square feet. And we believe that with the flux of time and because of a serendipitous innovation, because that the company was created during the time of peak COVID, and there was no other way but to engage with the consumers digitally. And in the span of the last 4 odd years of our inception, we have been able to take land across the various parts of the country in a sachetized format to the consumers across the globe. And the scalability and repeatability of the business model has been possible primarily because we engage, interact, and transact with the consumer digitally. So the first phase of the business was the discovery of the brand and the product remotely in a simulative manner. Then we moved on where we believe that the entire management of the consumer's life cycle can happen digitally, which we have been able to successfully do. So for us, tokenization and Web 3.0 is a natural progression where we believe that we will be able to bring innovation and work closely with the policymakers and the regulatory framework to create the liquidity of a stock market and the appreciation that is associated with land as an asset class. So the endeavor is to democratize land and make and constantly work towards making land an essential part of the consumer's wealth portfolio in a fractional and tokenized format.
Sam, thank you. So just to set the context, I think your first project was in 2021 in the peak of COVID, and the Dapoli project, and you almost sold it digitally, the entire project. So a lot of people were not able to see the land per se, but they anyway bought. Is this going to be the regular norm now? May I ask Mr. Hiranandani, what does he feel? You obviously credited with creating some of the landmark projects. Do you feel, now it will be tokenization that will take over?
I think the audience knows better. there was a time when I was required to sign shares for transfer of shares a couple of years ago. Not very many back, just 20 years ago. If I wanted transfer of shares, we would have to sign those papers. That's now gone. In the case of property, you can do real estate by going into an IPO listing. You can do REIT and get into a listing. And now they've taken it to the next level. So what is it actually happening? It's the fact that liquidity of money worldwide, investment portfolios in different places, like you're investing into the capital market, debt market, gold. So you have gold, originally physical gold. You don't have physical gold now. You invest into the security system, which is backed by gold. So I think the real estate is also moving into the same market for two reasons. Number one, the capital markets have too much money. They don't know where to put the money. So real estate is one of the additional areas where you want to do it. Second, the ease of doing business has improved over a period of years. So all the issues which were relating to land have improved over a period of time. Not enough, to be honest, but a long way to go in order to do it. But they've taken the marketing part of it to the next level. So I think congratulations to House of Abhinandan Lodha to take it to the next level. And I'm also learning from him in order to do that better and better over a period of time. But this innovation had started long back in different segments of the segment. And I think it's going to continue to happen in a much bigger way in the future than its past. But second, it is going to be consolidation first and tokenization second, because there are bad people in the market. Until that system is not set, the consolidation will take place, and it's already started. So for example, in the MMR region, before COVID, we had 18,000 developers who were there. Today, there are 12,000. So consolidation has already taken place very quietly, silently, but truthfully. How would you go in for tokenization if you didn't trust the paper that you were going to do it? So I think the trust factor, consolidation factor, all these factors are going to be much more important in the future than in the past. But of course, this is going to happen and there is no going back on this. Last one, the AI system which is going to take up, we'll get far more data availability to the investor over a period of time because of AI. The documentation of registration, availability of land records, and all these things have to be consolidated through AI. The states are doing it, they're very slow. We still have a long way to go in order to get it completely to happen. My view, in the next 1 year to 2 years, all that is going to happen. So what he's doing now, you will see almost 50% of the people doing it tomorrow. But the other part of it, if it is not done, then it may take 5 years or 10 years to make it happen across the board. So you can't have saying tier 2, tier 3, land, everything is going to go that way. Because it's also about trust. It is about backing it up with security and making surety of what is there. That's a big question mark in many cases. So whether it's going to happen across the board today, answer is definitely no. Tomorrow, 100% yes.
Of course, I mean, so the brand play is going to be very, very important here. I think we are already seeing that in conventional real estate, where brands are obviously commanding much higher premium than, say, not so well-known brands. Let me go to Mr. Rohira. You run one of the largest REITs in the country. Do you feel slightly even threatened is probably an extreme word to use, but if tokenization really gains momentum in a big way, will REITs, feel the heat to some extent?
Yeah, it's only going to increase the marketplace. So I think first let me just go with what Niranjan sir just said. I think our markets are not mature and disciplined to be able to adapt to an efficient product like tokenization to that level, because there is no real transparency available, right? Even the REIT legislation took 8 years to build. Thankfully so, they were very, very conservative to build that, even though there were global models available to learn from. SEBI was very tight on what they wanted to do, and rightly so, because you don't want hard-earned money of investors who are excited about investing in real estate, seeing this as an opportunity for fractional ownership to the smallest degree and losing out on their capital. So I think the governance mechanism has played out, but I think we are a long way to go till that market matures and you come down to tokenization to a substrata level. I don't think it's going to play out early, and it should not, if you ask me, for the benefit of investors. But we certainly should progress because technology as well as the digital age is going to help us fast track that. You don't have any information about, assuming you want to buy a 5,000 square foot office in a building, right? You don't know about who owns it, what is their title like, what is the debt raised against it. You're just buying the office building without knowing who the rest of the building is. Now you're asking for tokenization of that 5,000. There may be 15 people owning the 5,000. It's rented out at the end of the day because you want to earn yield, right? And if you don't have the right partners owning that 5,000, the tenant is going to run away. So you're going to lose all your money. So we should not even think in that direction till you don't have a mature market. It's not there anywhere else in the world, mind you, to that degree of tokenization. So I think we're a long way to go. But yes, digital mapping of real estate, very critical, inevitable. I don't think it's a choice. We have to do it. It's a matter of time.
Rishmi, if I can come to you, so what is your view? I mean, do you see this as a natural progression of things, or you think it's slightly early an idea, but we'll get there eventually?
Hello. Yeah, this is the beginning. And like Sir said, and Vinod, it's going to take some time for this to mature. But clearly, we are moving in a direction where real estate tokenization is going to be a reality because it will unlock a lot of capital. It'll also make land more liquid, which is an issue today. Very difficult to, to buy land because of the high costs, etc. So if this is done successfully, it needs a lot of aspects to be covered. A, we need to digitize all the land records. B, we need to have government regulatory frameworks which talk to each other. They shouldn't be law or the FEMA or RBI rules and regulations. In fact, we have to change the Transfer of Property Act and modify that. A whole lot of things need to be done for this to be successful and to be operated successfully. But if you ask me maybe 5 years back, and I was just talking to them, who would have thought that I could buy something and it gets delivered in 15 minutes and I pay for it within a second, right? But today we see everyone adopting to that technology. So if we are able to address the regulatory issues, if you're able to digitize the land records, because acquisition, title clearance is a problem, and if you're able to address all these, then we are slowly moving in that direction.
Sure. If I can come to Hiranandani, sir, speculation has been always a part and parcel of real estate. With this, you think the fair price discovery, I mean, people are going to, take all kinds of bets. And we don't have, well-established marketplaces. I think there are a few examples here and there. What is it going to do the price of real estate per se?
If you're going listing, there is always speculation. The speculation can be by FIIs, FDIs, individual investors, everyone. So the more you marketize, the more you speculate. So let's not talk about speculation as a thing about the whole thing. Market discovery will be much better by doing what process you are. Number two, transparency, because information will be available across the board. And the availability of data, which is there already happening. And this principally is done because of RERA. So the Real Estate Regulatory Act has completely changed that aspect of it. And the extent to which data is now available, I mean, 5 years ago, I promise you, I wouldn't know, even I, with all the background of real estate, would know 1% of what Mr. Raheja is doing. Today, I know at least 75% of what he's doing simply because it's in the public domain. So I don't see that going backwards. So we have the information in the public domain. Investment is going to go across the board. You will get international investors coming back to India. I'll give you an example. We did a launch of Panvel project, 1,500 apartments last year. Our average NRI sales in that segment used to be about 10%. This time it was 26%. So already the change is happening. So it's not that that is going to happen in the future. It's already here. But it is because data is available, information is available, regulatory act is far more different than it used to be before, and transparency. Price discovery comes from transparency. So it's already here. Speculation is a separate issue. How one speculates and who believes what is going to happen when, that part of it, the stock markets, I have never been able to understand most of it, what is happening even today with the stock markets. And I found that many of the experts who are considered experts are proved wrong.
Right.
So, but real estate, I'm still learning.
The REITs have remained fairly stable. I mean, they have not been a,
but REITs is a different commodity. It's a continuous income flow of a regular nature. So you have a lot of determination irrespective of who is there. And the listing is with only 4 big people in the country. So it's a very small thing. While residential and commercial housing is only 1 billion times more volume-wise and through the country. So we have a long way to go in that. But we are going to get there. And you will find that you will be able to then decide much better in the future than in the past, because a lot of data is available. And because of AI, you will be able to make judgment calls which you could not make because of the complexity. Like she said, you don't know who's your neighbor and all that. Tomorrow, all that information will be available, and it will be available, but you can't process it because the human mind can't process billions of data. But AI will be able to do it.
Blockchain and AI is going to do that for you.
100% you will see that happen and not tomorrow. In 5 years, it will be there.
Sure.
All that will be there. So you will find far more investments coming into India than it ever did.
Right.
In the real estate business, every year there will be a growth of at least 25 to 35% compounded growth of investment into real estate alone. I don't know about the stock markets, you know better.
Sam, if I were to ask you a very hypothetical question, also keep it short, we are almost towards the end of the session. If I were to ask you today from your portfolio, which asset will you tokenize first, and what would be the average ticket size? Both of you can answer that.
So while I'll not speculate on the price as you said, but the characteristic of a tokenized product as far as we are concerned is largely seen as a mix of 3 fundamental things. Number 1, a very strong emotional association with the location. Number 2 is the reliability of a wealth creation headroom. And the third part is that where consumers are seeing that, or we are witnessing because of availability of information, of a good confluence of connectivity, good governance, and infrastructure. So these are the places.
No, I mean, just a point blank, if I could ask you, will you first tokenize your land, or will you first tokenize your real estate projects, or will you tokenize your hospitality projects? What would be your biggest?
We will definitely, if in terms of priority, the logical progression for us when it comes to tokenization will be land. Because that's where we have seen a large predominant interest, because we have seen consumption being extremely heterogeneous. In conventional real estate, place of production and place of consumption remains the same, whereas in land, it's far more diversified. The place of production and the place of consumption could be quite varied.
Of course. Sir?
I think commercial property is the easiest to tokenize because of the REITs portfolio is already time tested in the market. So today commercial will be there. Tomorrow it will be land or any other thing that is there. But more than that, what we are going to see in the future is creation of destinations. So yesterday Pavai was a destination. Tomorrow Thane was a destination. Day after tomorrow the new airport Padvel will be a destination. 4th day Prime Minister will create Ayodhya as a destination. So all the price points that you're now talking about is going to change. Today, this is a destination. You have to now work out what is my next destination. Because the price point growth of 10, 20, 30, 40% growth in prices and volumes is going to happen in places where new destinations are getting created. And this is going to grow both in real estate as a whole and hospitality as second. So I think both these areas looks like growth, exponential growth in the next few years. CRISIL's report last stated real estate this year will again grow at a compound of 12%. My feeling is it will grow at least at 15% on top of last year. Last year they had predicted 8%, it went 10%. This year they predicted 10, my feeling it's 12. And you will see that. Of course, we don't know now. This world is so funny. Tomorrow they want to declare war everywhere in the world. Then something will have a setback for some time. But otherwise, India is the best country to invest today.
Right.
And I don't think that's changing in the short run.
Right. Mr. Rohira, you agree with the asset classes, largely hospitality and commercial? I mean, as a retail person, I would ask, can I tokenize residential real estate, whether big players like REIT, like Raheja REITs will be interested, Mindspace will be interested in transacting with me?
See, I think REITs is a clear demonstration of tokenization. Okay, it's already there. They changed that to a 200 rupee investment from 20,000, right? So we had at the IPO level 8,000 investors. Today we have 70,000 investors, right? This could go to 200,000. Now it's become an equity play. Very soon it'll be in the index. So it's anyways moving in that direction. It all depends on how mature your consumer is. Everyone wants to participate in real estate. You're either participating for an annuity return or a cumulative total return, right? If the markets become transparent, there is data available, there is price discovery, there is an index for residential real estate, which is driven by micro markets. It's driven by infrastructures. If you go to a neighborhood in America, you will see the ratings of schools, then you look at infrastructure, you look at crime, you look at all the utility costs, and then even the micro asset is valued very differently in each house can be valued. You're far away from that. If you get that here, and then you want to institutionalize to say that there's total return because you don't have residential yield return yet in India, you're still shy of 2 to 3%, right? You may reach in mature markets to 4.5%, but you'll look at a total return. You will tokenize even that. Mr. Lokhandwala launched that 25 years ago. Legislation didn't allow it. Legislation still doesn't allow it. It failed at that point on. It was a phenomenal product that was launched. It was amazing at 25 years ago. I remember that you could buy 2 square feet out of an apartment and you just had a token. So really the idea was even visible then. Even now in 25 years, you haven't seen that come through in legislative. So once it comes through, we are mature. I think anything can be tokenized.
Thank you so much. The Honorable Minister is already in, so we'll have to close this session, but thank you so much, and please continue this conversation after this session. Feel free to reach out to our panelists. Thank you so much again.
Thank you to all our panelists for mapping how tokenization can bridge technology, trust, and urban growth. Thanks, Deboshi. And now we turn our focus to India's national vision and how we can lead the world in the Web 3.0 era. From the G20's endorsement of digital public infrastructure to India's leadership in global blockchain standards, our digital diplomacy is setting the tone for collaboration and innovation worldwide. To welcome our special guest for our next marquee session, please welcome back Nalin Mehta on the stage.
Thanks very much, Shivani. And well, I'm delighted to welcome Dr. L. Murugan, Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting and Parliamentary Affairs. He's unfortunately had an injury which has constrained him from traveling. And we are very grateful to you, sir, for making the time for the Moneycontrol Web 3.0 Summit, despite the immense personal discomfort you're in, and to do this keynote session online. Mr. Murugan, of course, has served as the Vice Chairman of the National Commission for Scheduled Castes earlier, between 2017 to 2020. He has a law degree from the Tamil Nadu Dr. Ambedkar Law College in Chennai, as well as a master's and doctoral degrees from the University of Madras. He's practiced law for at least 15 years, also serving as the standing counsel to the Government of India at the Madras High Court. He's been the advocate on a number of important cases. He's held important positions in the RSS, as in the position of National General Secretary for scheduled castes. And in 2020, he was made chief of the BJP's Tamil Nadu unit. He's also a member of the Rajya Sabha representing Madhya Pradesh. Dr. Murugan, thanks very much for joining us, sir, for this keynote session from Delhi, despite being in such personal discomfort. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nalin. Mr. Nalin, Managing Editor, Moneycontrol, and the dignitaries. Ladies and gentlemen, namaste to you all. Vanakkam to everyone. Today, I'm very happy and delighted to join this Moneycontrol India Web 3.0 Summit. First of all, I'm unable to join with you in the physical presence. I accepted that I will come to you, Mumbai, and I will attend this program. But due to some personal reasons, I am unable to travel there because doctors advised me not to travel. So for that, I'm joining here with you through the virtual mode. Friends, I congratulate to the organizer to organize this such big event or nice event related to the Web's 3.0 Summit. In this summit is exploring the possibilities of Web 3.0, a transformative journey. It's timingly they're organizing. Today in India stands a defining moment where their technology, innovation, governance, and governing to create a new digital era in this sector. Friends, under the dynamic leader, our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, taken India's digital vision. Today, our India is how digitally within these 11 years, our Bharat is how digitally are evaluated, digitally we are focusing, digitally we are leading, and digitally we are pioneering throughout the world. So in this digital age, that for the transformation, for the paperless, and the our Honorable Prime Minister's mission to enterprise for India's transformation also. You see, our digital technology empowers the tool distance between the hope and opportunity. Our Prime Minister's mentioned some. And also Jandan, Aadhaar Mobile Trinity, Unified Payment Interface, Government's e-market, GEM portal, e-Nam portal for the agriculture. So wherever in Parliament also, e-Neva, National e-Vidhan portal. Like everywhere, our government is establishing and the government is focusing to the digitalized under the dynamic leader, our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. Once the people told that in digital transactions, how it is possible, we don't have the Wi-Fi systems, and we don't, our people doesn't know to the how to operate they don't operate the mobile. So where I am from Tamil Nadu, then the finance minister from Tamil Nadu, he told this, it is not possible to implement the digital payment. But our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi trusted the people now wherever you go, even it is in tribal area, it is in rural area, it is in village area, the digital transaction, everyone, last year I visited one district from Erode in Tamil Nadu. There one forest area, Satyamangalam is the forest area. I went and I asked, their street vendor was there in that village side, roadside. I purchased some cucumber. Then I asked Anna, how do I pay? He told you, Anna, he gave a mobile number. Anna, you do Google Pay. how, see, is a forest area in the roadside vendor is adapted for to getting the digital transaction. Now, because of this entire system, we are the pioneer in the digital transaction. The world, the global country, the countries of various countries, they are adopting our UPI payment. Like our system is evolving on the e-GEM portal. In the e-GEM portal, our government of India's every purchase through the GEM portal only. Like we are developing, and the almost the UPI transaction every month, 18 billion UPI transactions are getting place in our country, and our Atmanirbhar now Indian payment system, the countries we are using and we are giving to the other countries also. Friends, this revolution is taking place. We are all here, gathering here. We are all taking digital adoption to these such fields, wherever it is in financial sector, it is in education sector, it is in health sector, or it is in broadcasting sector. Whatever, all the sectors now, the digitalized is taking place. Zero or paperless are taking place. Like this Jandan accounts is emphasizing to the people, and link with the Aadhaar card, the direct beneficiaries. Now, earlier, we then Prime Minister itself told, if we sanction 100 rupees, it will reach only 15 rupees. But now, if you send 100 rupees, full of 100 rupees reach to the directly to the beneficiaries. So this is the revolution are taking place. Data center, you see, you can take it infrastructure of digital infrastructure. Here it is in data centers are expanding the central pillars of the data centers. AI, mechanic learning applications. National Informatics Center has established state-of-the-art national data centers in city like Delhi, Pune, Hyderabad. Like the government, private participants, the national data centers, even in northeastern region, in September 2022, there was launched by our government. See, the digital mission and the data and the digitalization is taking very fast in our country, friends. Whenever we talk about the digitalized, same time the technology, AI, next level, now we are all moving. Use our IMF, International Monetary Fund, they are also acknowledged India's as a global, India is becoming a global leader. There's a fast payment gateways, according they are acknowledging. As for the report of digital economy report, India's third, we are third digitalized infrastructures we are taking. You see, our earlier, before 2014, our economic was there 11th place. Now we are in the fourth biggest economy. In 2027, we will be in the third economy. In 2047, we will be the first progressive nation. Towards that, we are marching. Friends, this through these digital transactions, economic transactions, and the while we talk about these things, I in my sector, in my ministry also, the World Audio Visual and Entertainment Summit 2025 was happened in Mumbai itself. Almost 77 countries are participated that, and our Indian creators, and they got a platform towards the global level. They can they're connected through the waves. These waves are giving platform for the OTT creators, music creators, filming persons, gaming, animation, and digital videos. Like this sector, AVG sector is growing. For that, our government is established in Mumbai itself, Indian Institute of Creative Technology. Almost there it is in functioning last 2 months before. In this web era, we are all have an opportunity our Indian youngsters, new mind, new people, they are getting opportunity in this era to create a creative in India and creative economy. So in this, with these words, I conclude, friends, this is the opportunity for the creative economy or web 3.0 revolution. This summit, I congratulate for all the organizers and participants to take, we will work together to take our nation as a Viksit Bharat at 2047. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Murugan, and deeply grateful to you, sir, for making the time. A big hand for the Minister of State for Information Broadcasting and Parliamentary Affairs. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Murugan. Thank you, Nalin, for that fast-looking perspective on India's leadership. From digital identity to instant payments, India has built one of the most trusted tech ecosystem in the world. Today, data is emerging as new language of governance, shaping policies, driving efficiency, and creating a real-time impact. Please welcome Shweta Punj from Moneycontrol to lead this discussion.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being an amazing audience. We have with us someone who is a veteran policy maker. He's joining us from New Delhi. He couldn't be here with us today, but he's the man who's in charge of the whole statistical overhaul that India is going through. He was previously the CEO of UIDAI, and currently he's the secretary of statistics and program implementation with the government of India. He is driving several reforms in the way data is getting collected in the country, the way it's getting disseminated, and the way it's being protected. First thing on his agenda is enhancement of data collection. He's overseeing several new surveys, including those to measure private sector capital expenditure and the monthly publication of employment statistics. And also, under his leadership, the ministry is exploring the use of technologies like AI and machine learning for data collection and analysis. Please put your hands together for Dr. Saurabh Garg.
Thank you.
Dr. Garg, you're missing an in-person applause. I'm sure the energy would have really energized you in the room if you were here with us, but thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. I would have loved to be there, but my loss that I'm not able to meet all the wonderful audience who's present out there.
Well, sir, but thank you so much. We know that you had a busy schedule, so we really appreciate you taking out the time. You know, if we could begin by talking about the role of data today in policy intelligence, and if you could share some examples with us on how data has been used recently to design policy interventions. We were discussing a little while ago about how data on women empowerment and declining participation of women in the workforce actually nudged certain policy interventions. If we could begin with some anecdotes to understand, how data is being used to drive policy in India.
Yeah, sure. So I think data-driven decision-making is something which is being emphasized increasingly. In fact, the Honorable Prime Minister during Civil Services Day this year in April 25 mentioned that every civil servant should be focusing on data-driven decision-making. And just to give a few examples, for example, last year in the budget, the Honorable Finance Minister had announced focused interventions for creches, for children, and working women hostels. And that was a direct fallout of the labor market data. The female labor participation rate, by the way, has been increasing, but we are still below global levels. And that was one of the reasons that this intervention was introduced last year. Similarly, You had earlier on when we were talking about the national education policy, looking at the out of school children and the focus on how to bring back out of school children, either through formal means or through open schooling. And that's why the focus on that. More recently, skill development has been a major focus area, because the annual survey of unincorporated sector enterprises showed that the skill levels of workers have been limited in terms of formal skill training. So that's informed a lot of the skill training work that is being done. So the focus is data-driven decision making, and these are just a few examples.
Right, Dr. Garg. We've often spoken about how data is the new oil. In current times, one would say data is the new gold. Um, we want to get a sense from you on how is MOSPI using Web 3.0 to collect data, because in the past questions have been raised around the quality of data that's coming out of India, and we know that personally you've been really driving that the quality of data, the granular capturing of data at the district level, at the grassroots level happens efficiently and effectively. If you could just take us through some of the initiatives that you've taken to ensure that Web 3.0 is implemented in data collection.
Yeah. So one thing I would like to say in terms of robustness and accuracy, that is something that we focus on, and the quality of the data is something that's extremely important. And that's one thing that I think the statistical system, the data that is being produced, is of a very high quality. But at the same time, we need to move with the times, and therefore how to incorporate the latest technology in the system. That's a great focus. So, for example, let's start with data collection. We don't do any pen and paper data collection. It's done through tablets, and it's the computer-aided personal interviewing, and it's directly uploaded onto the cloud. So, and in the cloud, we have validation mechanisms, so that if there are any areas where observations are grossly seem to be out of sync with what normally being, flags are raised, and it goes back to the enumerator within 28 or 24 to 48 hours, so that the validation can be done. We also introduced a toggle switch, toggle button for language change, so that on the ground level, if the enumerator needs to inform the citizen more effectively, at the moment we have English and Hindi, and we are expanding to other languages, so it will become so much easier. We've also got on our tablets for the enumerators an AI-based chatbot, which will help to classify the data that is given more effectively, and that reduces the time taken. So this I'm just giving one set of examples in data collection. And similarly, whether it's data processing or data dissemination, we are using technology at each stage.
So you are using technologies like blockchain to ensure that data is collected and it's safe.
I won't say that we are using blockchain as of now, but our data is on the cloud. And if the cloud provider is using such technologies, that I would not be able to confirm. But let's say, for example, we are definitely using alternate data sources. For example, geospatial data. That's something that helps improve the accuracy and helps the enumerator going to the houses, so that we have built in the geospatial data, so that it identifies the houses more effectively. We are using e-commerce data, online data sources, so that these kind of data sources become available, whether it's for price or for calculating the GDP. We are using e-Vahan data, for example, which will give idea of the growth of the road transport. We are working with the GST mechanism, so that growth rates are captured more effectively and much more in a granular manner. So different types of technologies we are using, and what we are trying to use is that the latest form of data that is available We use that so that the GDP calculations, the index for industrial production, the price index that we calculate, use the most timely data and the most recently available data.
Fascinating, Dr. Garg. We are very curious to actually understand what are the changes that we can expect going forward. You mentioned some of them, that you're using e-Vahan data, you're using data from e-commerce companies and so on. In terms of the way GDP is calculated, do we see the base getting expanded further? And in terms of the challenges, when it comes to data collection, especially where technology access is concerned, for a developing country like India, how are you looking at
Talk about what are the changes that we are introducing to make, for example, the GDP data, the growth data, the size of the GDP, and price index, and the growth of industries more effective. So one is that we are updating the base. The base up till now was 2011-12. We are updating that to 22-23 because that's the data that's available in terms of the household consumption expenditure. So it covers the latest trends of consumption and the items of consumption which people are now using, and so it will capture that. The coverage of the economy has become much more granular because, number one, there's been a change in the structure of the economy over the past decade, especially with the introduction of the digital economy, which has really expanded since the Digital India Mission was started in 2014-15. So we are reworking the weights of the different sectors of the economy based on the consumption expenditure survey that we have and the present structure of the economy. Apart from that, new data sources we are incorporating. Some of them I mentioned earlier. And for each sector, we are looking at what new data sources have come up, and many of them are digital in nature. So we are really getting, in a way, real-time data available. For example, payments data at an aggregate level will help to see where the kind of growth is happening. And the third kind of changes are on the methodological side, because over the past 10 years, there have been changes in the methodology, in the compilation mechanisms. So that will be done. So on all this will input into the GDP calculations, the price index calculation, and the other data that we bring out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, please go on.
Apart from that, there's another set of work that we are doing so that data that is available in the public domain for government, for private sector, there are 3 or 4 areas that we are focusing on. One is timeliness, because if data is not available early, then the value of that data reduces. So our focus now is that whatever we bring out on a monthly basis, for example, the labor market data is brought out monthly. Our attempt is to bring out within 15 days, but definitely not more than 30 days. So we bring out the price data within 12 days of the end of the month, and the labor market, employment, unemployment data within 15 days at the end of the month. So that's the focus that we have. Similarly, for the quarterly data, within 45 days, we should bring out, and annual data within 90 days. So that ensures that there's some certainty when we'll bring out the data. The second is the frequency that we bring out the data also increases. Labor market data until last year, we were bringing it out on an annual basis and quarterly for the urban area. Now we bring out rural and urban on a monthly basis.
Yes.
Similarly, the unincorporated sector, the informal sector, we were bringing out again on an annual basis only. Now we bring out that data on a 3-monthly basis, so you get a sense of the health of the informal sector, what are the revenues, what are the growth, which sectors are doing well, and this data is available in the public domain on a 3-monthly basis. So we are working on increasing, and the third part, we are increasing the granularity of the data that is available. So our focus up till now was to bring out national level and state level data. We are working with the state governments to see what all data can be brought out at the district level. In fact, already many of these indicators like price, if not price, at least GDP or the district domestic product is being brought out. We are working with them. Can we bring out price data either at the district or a regional level or in industrial production data? So that's the third. And the fourth, if I can quickly come to, is the increasing the coverage of the data. So up till now, we didn't have a focused work on the services sector. So we are going to start a new survey. We did a pilot last year, and which will lead into a services production index also. So that will give us better idea of the services sector, which now comprise more than 50 or 55% of the economy. We've started bringing out a forward-looking capital expenditure survey data so that the private sector gets an idea of which other sectors that capital is being spent. So these are the four sets of workers: timeliness, frequency, periodicity, and coverage that we are improving.
Fascinating insights there, Dr. Garg. I want to talk to you about the labor data that you mentioned. We do see that there is a lot of discrepancy between the data that comes out from the government and the data that is put out by private firms where employment data and jobs data is concerned. Why is there a difference, Dr. Garg? And according to you, what would be, when we are as journalists and as analysts looking at data, which data should we go for? Because it gets very confusing for us.
Yeah. So let me first of all say that whatever data that we bring out, we strictly follow the international guidelines. And the definitions we are saying is actually the fact. And the second thing which I would want, actually the fact, as I mentioned, since January we are bringing out monthly data. We have increased the number of households that we survey to about nearly 3 lakh households, which is a significant increase from what it was earlier. So given the fact that we follow international definitions, we are totally transparent in what we are doing, and the sample sizes that we do, I don't think anyone is close to those sample sizes. So what we have to look at it is whether it is representative of the national of the entire country, or whether are they in isolated pockets only, is that survey being done. And to the extent that my knowledge goes, I don't think anyone has challenged the credibility or the robustness or the accuracy of our data.
All right. Well, we're nearing the end of our conversation, but very quickly, I want to get a sense from you on use of AI in data collection. And do you feel that with increasing use of technology, the data discrepancies that we see come up, that would reduce significantly?
See, the data discrepancies that come up are due to a variety of reasons. And I suppose you're talking about the data discrepancies between the data that we bring out and some of the other agencies that bring out. I mentioned about the reasons from the labor market data. And right. One thing which is always there in the data that our sample sizes in most cases don't go below 1 lakh. We start from 1 lakh and go upwards to 5 lakhs. I don't know how many other agencies have those kind of samples. Second, we are very, very careful of the definitions and what we are stating, and we stand by every statement that we make in terms of what we are producing. And we have a very high focus on quality of the data. We look at what is the validation, what are the responses that have come up, and we have both machine level checks which use machine learning or AI and human oversight, a combination of these that we look at. So at the same time, we regularly do data user conferences with researchers, forecasters, the media, presenting our results in a very transparent manner. And we are always open to question And we are very happy for anyone else to raise issues that they might have discovered in our data. We'll be very happy to correct ourselves and improve. But and we also do discussions with many of the data collectors who are in the private sector, and we are hopeful as they work with us and they also standardize their systems, their data processes will also improve.
All right, very quickly, my last question, Dr. Garg. Monetary policy is heavily dependent on CPI, and we know that CPI series, the new CPI series, would be launched in February. How crucial do you feel would be the new series with respect to the MPC?
See, we bring out the price inflation data, and our attempt is to ensure that it reflects as closely as possible the price rises or the price changes that face a household. And that's the reason that we are updating our database or updating our base year to 22, in fact, 23, 24, and which will be based on the household consumption expenditure survey. It will reflect the basket of items that the household currently uses. One of the things which has been mentioned repeatedly is the fact that food forms a smaller weight in the basket that people now use, and cereals have reduced. The consumption of eggs, dairy products, fruits, vegetables has increased. The weight of things like travel and conveyance has increased. So all these items will be much more reflective of the price rises that an individual household faces. And obviously the kind of data that we are collecting, and I've already spoken about what other sources that we are using, so that, for example, online retail has the appropriate weight in this basket. Now, how the price index is used by various individuals, various organizations, is based on their. So the Reserve Bank of India definitely uses it for the monetary policy, but I'm sure they use other inputs also. But what our attempt is to ensure that whatever data that they use, which is from us, is robust and accurate.
So would it make for a compelling case for the RBI to maybe consider a rate cut? That's what we are hoping for.
That's not my domain. Sorry, I can't talk about that.
Okay, very quickly. So one last question on in the fintech space. I believe that MOSPI will be collecting data from fintechs as well. Or so we've heard. What kind of data would you be seeking from the fintech industry?
So it's not. We had an interaction with the fintech industry that was more in terms of since the fintech industry uses a lot of economic data for their various products, etc. It was more in the terms of making them aware of the data that's available in the public domain with the government, and that can be suitably leveraged by them for designing their products, improving their products, or in any other manner. Whatever data that we get is always in an anonymized format, and it is done whatever is legally permissible. So there's no such specific data that we are looking from the fintechs, but we would be very happy to collaborate with them to understand what kind of data they would be willing to share at an aggregate level. And we will have to look at that, where we can utilize that data to produce some economic indicator which will be of use to them and the industry in general.
Any timelines that you're working with on this one?
No, it's an open-ended discussion. Whatever data we need for that, in any case, we work with different agencies. I mentioned about e-commerce firms and OTT platforms. So whatever data, specific data that we need, we work with the concerned agencies. Any other data is something that we would be willing to look at and discuss on how it can be mutually beneficial.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Garg, for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Dr. Garg. We wish you the very best in this overhauling of India's data journey. Like we said, data is the new gold, and you are in charge of it for India. Thank you so much, sir. We'll see you in Delhi. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy talking to you.
Thank you, Mr. Garg, and thank you, Shweta, for showing us how India's governance model is evolving through data-led accountability. Our next session explores one of the boldest frontiers in financial innovation, the digital rupee, and India's move towards a tokenized banking infrastructure. The central banks around the world race to understand and launch digital currencies. India stands out from blending fintech agility with a regulatory foresight. The question is, can the digital rupee redefine how the money moves, how trust is built, and how the future of banking is imagined? Now, to lead this conversation, please welcome Lata Venkatesh, CNBC TV 18. Joining her are distinguished leaders driving India's digital evolution. Ajay Rajan, country head, government, multinational and international business transaction banking and knowledge units, Yes Bank. Divyansh NASA, partner EY. Tirtha Chatterjee, principal, Boston Consulting Group. And Ashish Singhal, founder and CEO, Indian Bank's digital infrastructure company. Let's give them a warm round of applause.
Thank you very much for inviting us. It was a fascinating session with Mr. Garg, or rather Dr. Garg, and the quality and quantity of statistical output from the Indian government has seen a parabolic shift after Dr. Garg took over. So really proud that we are following in his footsteps in this panel. But what we are discussing really is the digital rupee. The Reserve Bank launched it with some degree of intensity of effort 2 years ago when they picked up about 10 banks and asked them to start identifying their customers, to give them the right to open a wallet where they can take out some of their money and put in as an e-rupee. Now, just as a preliminary or a preface, I want to tell you how it is different from UPI. I guess most of you know it, since this gathering is a Web 3.0 gathering. But nevertheless, for those of you who may have strayed in without knowing this minor difference, if I pay Tirtha by UPI, it is going from my bank account to his bank account. But what happens in the CBDC is I create a purse in my phone or in my laptop, in my iPad, where I transfer my money and put it in, say 100 rupees, 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees. And then if I pay Tirtha into his wallet, the bank doesn't know whom I'm giving the money. So there is a degree of anonymity. At a time when you want to perhaps donate to an organization that is not very sympathetic to the government, or which the government is not sympathetic to, in these vague cases, you may perhaps enjoy the anonymity. But just normally, why should everyone know where I am spending? It is that anonymity that the CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency, or what you can simply call e-rupee, was launched. The e-rupee had some use cases, but I think the person best placed to tell us how the e-rupee is functioning is Ajay Rajan from Yes Bank. Yes Bank was one of the banks chosen of the 10 banks to launch the e-rupee. So, Ajay, why don't you just tell us what has been the progress so far? What have been the uses of e-rupee?
Perfect. Thanks, Lata. But I think let me first qualify that the primary difference between UPI and CBDC is UPI is actually digital money, whereas CBDC is digital currency. So it's actually money or cash in a digital form. So that itself becomes a fundamental difference. One is a payment instrument and another is actually cash. So it has stored value plus payment as a functionality, right? So it's actually far more than a plain UPI. So you're absolutely right. We are in the third year of digital rupee now, or CBDC as we call it, and it's been an interesting rollout. It's actually not yet launched. We're still in the pilot phase. As we speak, we are 19 banks plus more importantly, we have two PSOs also now. So two licensed entities, Cred and MobiKwik, who are also now authorized by Reserve Bank of India to issue digital rupee. So that's a big.
That makes it 21.
That makes it 21. So it's a big step forward. There is around 850 crores of digital rupee currency in circulation. In terms of user base, we are around 7 million users.
7.5 million. That is the number I got 1 hour ago from RBI.
Absolutely. And in terms of merchant, so it's supposed to be both P2P and P2M. So in terms of merchant, I think the beauty is because it's now interoperable with UPI. So practically the entire 6.5 crore merchants who today use UPI are also eligible for CBDC. So that, in terms of scale is where, we've reached in the 2 years. So the way I think I would define, these 3 years. So the first 2 years actually went into developing use case around P2P and P2M. Trust to technology, a new payment mode is really, where the time went. But the third year, in my view, has been actually a lot more rocking and a lot more, innovation actually coming in. So in fact, the last GFF saw 8 new product launches, which was incredible, only on CBDC, including, launches by Honorable Governor, Deputy Governor and ED. So around 8 new product launches on CBDC were done. Equally important, CBDC sandbox was rolled out by Reserve Bank of India. So that actually is a call out to all the fintech innovators, that come innovate and build innovation at scale, on CBDC. So that's, which is there. Two very key features have also, been launched. One is programmability. And that, in my view, again, both from a P2P perspective and also from a government disbursement perspective, is actually going to be a game changer as, as we speak.
Fair enough. Programmability. Now, that's another word that will keep coming. And again, I'm sure a large number of you know, but for the few handful journalists like me who are not very familiar with the programmability word, it's like this. If I have 500 rupees in my CBDC pocket, okay, I've taken it out from my bank and put it in my wallet. If one of them is programmed in such a way that it can only be paid for medicines, that is programmability of the e-rupee. Okay, normally governments would do that when they are contributing to the citizen for a very specific purpose, to make sure that you're not spending it on something else. And that is where the government comes in. Okay, since Ajay has already laid out where it is used, I'm going to now go over to where it can be used or where it is already being in use. And for that, I'm going to go over to Ashish Singhal. Now, Ashish Singhal occupies a very important position here. This organization, IBDIC, Interbank Digital Infrastructure Company, has been set up by what? 14 banks?
18 banks.
18 banks. They own his company. And the idea is that every bank is an internal network. So to integrate the networks with programs so that bank-to-bank transactions can be done, government-to-bank transactions can be done. So Ashish occupies a very important position. Ashish, if you can tell us what is already underway in terms of the next use that we can expect. Close.
Thanks, Lata, for this. And under no circumstances, I hold a very important piece on this stage. The bankers will always be supreme. But I think the important piece where Ajay left off and to build on that on programmability, couple of pieces which we are working on, and these are still initial days, is MSME financial inclusion, where we've said that typically in a supply chain, when funding has to happen, deeper tiers of supply chain who are not directly supplying to a credit-worthy anchor, how can we go and fund them? So we have run a sandbox pilot with RBI, which we exited recently, where we are tokenizing these invoices which are issued by the tier 1 and accepted by the anchor. And these tokens flow through the system. Now, just imagine today in a normal world, for a PSL benefit, banks will, give these loans and then...
One minute, Ashish. PSL priority sector is not as common as GDP.
Okay.
So please,
Okay. Sorry.
fewer
There's
abbreviations.
an issue of banker on the forum, but yeah, priority sector, those are specific money which needs to be lent to promote lending in the under-penetrated segments, etc., which is called priority sector lending. There, today the bank lends and then they report, etc. Just imagine if the money which comes as wholesale CBDC to the bank, which is programmed to be lent only for priority sector, and through the deep tier financing, it goes to a SME as CBDC, and the money, and then that money gets exchanged into the normal rupee. Either they can go and spend at the merchant for buying whatever they want to buy, or can convert that into actual rupee and do their normal transaction. So there actually the funding has gone as part of programmability. So similarly, the other piece which we are working on is on the trade side, because there's a, currently our trade and exports are growing at about 8-9%. And to meet the 2 trillion trade objective by 2020-30, we require a CAGR of close to about 16-17%. In cross-border, just imagine today if you have to transfer money. So for INR gets into, you go to a bank goes into the corresponding bank in dollar, then there's a, it gets converted, and then the dollars settlement happen, and then it is paid to the importer in case you are exporting some things, etc. So that entire piece takes about 2 days, 3 days, at best 1 day. And given the currency fluctuation, even within this 1 day, this is a huge risk. Now, if these can be replaced by CBDC, and instant settlement can happen. So I pay by CBDC, and there's a bilateral arrangement between, let's say, if I'm exporting to US, there's a bilateral trade agreement between India and US for conversion of CBDC. The person on the other side will be able to get the money immediately. So that entire currency risk goes away. Again, these are programmable pieces which can come into play.
Okay.
So there could be multiple pieces on programmability and tokenization which can take this entire journey to a very, very different level.
The only problem is you took the wrong example. The one country which
Yeah,
will not enter into a CBDC with us would be the United States, because they want us to use stable coins rather than they use CBDC. But I think we are having some conversation with MAS, with Singapore, and the expectation is that if your child is studying there, or if someone, you want to send small money, not really major transactions, I think they have taken off a bit for you to be able to send it in a common central bank digitized currency, but still experimental, I think.
Summarize, actually, the technology now is no longer a challenge. So CBDC solves for the technology part. The geopolitical considerations, if they are solved, I think the money movement now can be instant and efficient with a lower cost. I think is the moot point, and that is really where I think India has moved from a CBDC perspective.
Actually, Tirtha of BCG also wanted to elaborate on the trade usage. You're free to add more to what Ashish said, or any other use case that you have come across in BCG.
Absolutely. So, building on what Ajay and Ashish has already mentioned, I think there are 2 points that we want to add here. One is that in a future use case is in terms of cross-border payments, the efficiency part of it. So there have been pilots which have already been executed by some of the other countries. And what we see is that the cost of a cross-border payment can be reduced by 50%. The settlement time can be brought down. For remittances, it can be brought down from 1 to 3 days to seconds, or almost instantaneously, right? So that's a huge unlock, and given the India is one of the large country with the largest number of amount of remittances, $150 billion of annual remittances. So that's a huge pool to unlock. On the cross-border trade part, so right now India's trade with a lot of different global blocks are increasing. The trade with Asian is increasing; it's about $120 billion. India's trade with Africa has increased $100 billion plus, right? This also gives, CBDC is also a conduit for us to de-risk our dependence on some of the other foreign currencies. This helps us, so if let's say India gets into CBDC engagements bilateral with some of the African countries, maybe we do not need any other global currency to
intervening currency
to lean on. So that's something that we can look forward to.
No, fair enough. Actually, just to elaborate what Tirtha said, we are attempting this even before e-rupee in the Asian Clearing Union. You know, you don't do gross dollar settlements. Okay, I buy from Thailand. Thailand buys from South Korea. South Korea buys from Malaysia. You know, the entire ASEAN bloc periodically decide how much is the net payment. After I pay you and you pay them, it's all dollars. But you don't buy so many dollars, you only net it out. So every country is buying and selling less dollars so that there is a ease of clearing. That's happening in the Asian Clearing Union. If we could do that bilaterally with, say, Sri Lanka, for instance, you just have the Reserve Bank deducts that much from the account of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, or the Sri Lankan central bank increases or deducts, then neither of them are going through a New York bank. You know, you save that much in terms of time, in terms of the currency loss. Those are the things that bilateral arrangements is what he's speaking. But I just said Sri Lanka because probably that is easier in terms of there being a lot of exchange and a lot of people moving to and fro. Well, to you, Devansh, what other use cases do you see or have you already seen discussed at EY?
Yeah, so there are a couple of additional use cases that I've seen. The first one is mostly around the supply chain traceability. So mostly when we are exporting to markets outside India and where there is a carbon tax applicable, or there is a requirement for showcasing the ESG traceability, that's where having the right technology helps in identifying what is the overall route and what are the sources, and hence it can help you justify a lower tax rate possibly, or reducing the ESG specific overheads that you might end up while you are exporting to these markets. That's one piece that we have seen being incorporated not just by smaller organizations, but a lot of multinationals who are manufacturing in India and then exporting to other geographies. They are doing this to ensure a better tax applicability for their operations. The second aspect that we have seen, and this is again which is coming up, is on the healthcare side. Now, on the healthcare sector, that's another space where there's a lot of electronic data for each patient that needs to be there. And there are different organizations, different hospitals maintaining that data across. Now, as an insurance provider, I don't have access to all those reports or all the data. So, that's also one way of democratizing that data and ensuring quicker resolution of the claims and bringing down the time as well as the cost of doing that piece of business. I think these are a couple of areas that I've seen coming up.
Where, of course, digitization and AI can help. Ajay, I want to make the question more specific. Ashish went on to speak about a possible use case, right? That, priority sector lending can be programmed in that fashion. Can you tell me something which is underway, where you'll probably see e-rupee being, or this programmed rupee being used like tomorrow or next month or next year?
So I'll give you a very interesting use case which is actually underway, and not live, but it's kind of in good discussions. Asset tokenization, I think we all realize, is going to be very prominent, right? And we are in a Web3 summit, so undoubtedly, there are going to be very, very prominent use cases, for doing this. Now, any asset tokenization solution will also require a legitimate settlement, and this is where CBDC can actually play a very critical role, right? Let me take two examples here: carbon trading. Carbon credit trading or solar energy trading. Now, these actually, so there are two parts to it, right? One is the smart contract exchange, which will be required, for the tokens. But more importantly, the money will also need to be moved. And this is where CBDC can actually become the legitimate currency, which can move, the settlement.
Why is the e-rupee better than sending money through SWIFT.
No, because it's tokenized, right? So we are talking about tokenized assets. So tokenized assets will require a tokenized
The carbon
settlement.
credit is a token. Okay.
Absolutely. So that's why I'm saying, as and when the legitimized token economy will increase, you also need a legitimate token settlement, and that's where CBDC can actually play a very significant role. And that, in my view, is right now happening. The discussions are happening. Some pilots have happened. I think once it is approved, it can go done. The second, where we've had discussions, and I think again can be a very potentially good use case, is tourists when they come into India. Now, invariably, you will find that either they will bring in currency, or they will at the airport exchange cash to cash. Right now, the CBDC, for example, if you are able to give wallets on the go, which again RBI has
attempted.
Exactly, right. Now, if against the passport KYC, which is done for the tourists, if we are able to issue CBDC on the go, the wallet can be loaded against that cash. You're doing two things. One, you're actually eliminating the usage of cash. The second more important thing is you're actually giving the flavor of India's prowess on digital payments to the global at large. I remember, in G20, when CBDC was showcased.
But who is giving that money? Is it a bank, or
no? It
is
will be
it
the
an arm of
money.
the
No, it
RBI?
will be the money changer who's sitting in.
No, I'm asking the question deliberately. When the money changer gives me the money, he will normally charge me 90 rupees for the dollar. If you want to eliminate that, he will give me so many rupees, or so many dollars worth of rupees. If it is coming from a bank or a money changer is worse than the bank, but even the bank takes away 5%. But if it is good, what the Reserve Bank genuinely wants is that should be brought down. It is 88.69 today. They should give it to you at 89.
So
because that is the only effort that goes. The actual expenditure is just that, but that's
So
not happening.
I'll just break it into two. So one is the currency exchange. So dollar has to be converted to rupee. That is a given.
Yeah.
The second is the currency movement into digital, right? So the second part is easily solvable with CBDC. The first part is actually a conscious call which needs to be taken in terms of the FX exchange rate, right? So the retail FX platform, for example,
Does give you
eventually
a smaller
at some
margin.
stage, could also be opened up for these kind of conversions. In which case, then it becomes an open source platform. You can bid for the FX and get the volumes. So at some stage, all this, can be intertwined to really bring a very good experience
for the tourist, for sure. Okay,
Just to add to that, the piece which you raised in terms of the markups, etc. See, when we look at these markups, what is the London rate and then what is the rate? We forget that today there are a lot of compliances which the money changer or the banks need to do. The moment the money is moving digitally and you're depending on the KYC of passport, etc., you are reducing those processes. As the result, the overall system will become efficient. Assuming that their margins continue to be the same, the overall cost will still come down.
And Lata, I just want to add one most important facet of CBDC, which in my view, in the future, that will be the real game changer, which will differentiate CBDC with any other payment system. So offline use cases are, is already live in some shape and form. Non-proximity SMS based is already live. The Reserve Bank has been continuously working along with the ecosystem to see what are the other ways that offline CBDC can be proliferated, right? In every RBI hackathon, if you see the Harbinger, offline CBDC use cases are always one of the areas where they want people to innovate. Now, the DBT solves, along with programmability, one part of the money transfer, right? But India UPI is still, I think, 50-60% penetrated, because in low connectivity or no connectivity, you still have cash
problem of paying through
cash
UPI.
is prevalent, right? So that is where, if offline CBDC, for example, can become a big catalyst.
Replacement.
Absolutely, right? So there, if once we are able to solve, and now the CBDC sandbox, in my view, could propel innovation, on offline. So that, when solved along with program, so programmability will ensure that DBT is transferred directly to the wallet. The usage of money in the wallet, no longer do you have to go to the bank, take out money. If you can use it in an offline form, in a no internet or low internet, I think that solves for real financial inclusion.
No, actually, it is more than just beyond the 60%. Let me tell you that in the last 1 month or 1 week, I know 2 instances of people who told me that their GPay didn't work. I wanted to pay over GPay or it didn't work. And in one case she, and in one case he, didn't have the money because he thought he's going to pay the petrol pump with GPay. And he was desperate because he was calling cousins and all and saying, can you GPay? And many of them didn't have because he was a taxi driver. The genuine problem of, this suddenly internet or electricity not working can be definitely resolved, not only in unavailable areas,
Even in
but
urban,
even in, the board over there is screaming, time's up. So I'm going to give a brief time to all of you. And then I have an optimistic list to read. Okay, I just wanted to ask you, is there any forthcoming technology that we should be aware of? Emerging technology, which will be useful, Ashish?
So in terms of, I think it's no emerging technology apart from quantum, etc. But the piece is that there've been blockchain tokenization. They've been an annual, and they're just waiting to break out and be adopted at large scale. So that in the next 3 to 5 years, that is what we should look at and brace.
Yeah. Maybe I could just vary the question. Either you speak on emerging technology or what is the challenge? Is UPI the biggest challenge? It's working so well. Why do you want a CBDC?
I think I'll just take a minute to answer the first part. So one of the emerging technologies which Nandan Nilekani talks very eloquently about, it's the Finternet, right? So in India and in the global south in general, there is a lot of asset which is not completely monetized and capitalized. India's mortgage penetration is significantly lower than a lot of other countries. So, if there is once asset tokenization goes into motion, if land can be tokenized, there are other, let's say art, there are more collectibles, luxury items, if they can be tokenized. And then, the other side of tokenization is the realization of that. If that can be done via cryptocurrencies, by CBDC, that's the way to go.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You'll get about half a minute each. Okay, first to you, Devansh. Want to speak about some challenge or emerging technology? One of the two.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges which I see is, with going digital and digital currency is from a security standpoint, we are also sharing a lot of information. So one of the aspects which are coming in is, zero functional sharing, which is, you share only a part of the information and it is able to fetch the entire.
CBDC is safer in that sense.
Yes, exactly. So even if it's your KYC or other aspects, you don't have to share your date of birth, your email, your passport number, etc. Only one key should be able to fetch the information.
No, I think that's a very big point you're making, because someone the other day lost his mobile and he was 5.5 lakhs poorer because someone could use his GPay. I don't know how they cracked the code, but the point is now losing your phone is not just losing your phone. It may mean your bank account getting cleaned up. Anything else in terms of emerging?
Generally very excited about use of AI in financial services. I think, we are at the very nascent stage in terms of really harnessing the power of AI in financial service. Of course, RBI's, report on free AI, I think that sets the framework in terms of how ethically banks or financial institutions should use AI to innovate. So I think the next couple of years will really be transforming in terms of how AI will define financial services.
And we have to see where e-rupee figures. But I must read this list because it's extremely encouraging. The e-rupee has made progress. And I'll tell you why. There is a PM Vidya Lakshmi program where they give scholarships. That is working in several pilot areas on e-rupee, because that rupee is programmed and given to the student, and it will only be accepted in recognized colleges. So in Vidya Lakshmi, the e-rupee is working. The e-rupee is also working in a unified pension scheme for informal workers. Again, you're able to identify who the candidate is, and it is working over there. What is also live in e-rupee is a G-Safal program where the government of Gujarat is giving aid to women to start enterprises. It's working in multiple schemes in horticulture. It's just ready in Uttarakhand, not yet gone live. And there are other areas like Haryana, where e-scooter purchases are being paid for by e-rupee. So the government of India actually has gone a little ahead of the banks in trying to make the e-rupee work so that the exact expected beneficiary or intended beneficiary gets the money. there's a lot of hope and optimism around e-rupee. Thank you very much, Ashish, Tirtha, Ajay, and Devansh for taking us through this conversation and giving us the benefit of your ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you, panelists, and thank you so much, Lata. And now for our marquee fireside chat for the evening, I invite Nalin Mehta on stage to welcome our guest of honor for the evening.
Thanks very much, Shivani. Our next session brings together constitutional tradition and digital innovation, two forces that are shaping the future of governance in India. In an age where technology is transforming how governments think, decide, and deliver, Maharashtra has, of course, emerged as a laboratory for digital democracy, from e-Vidhan reforms and data-driven policy making to Web 3.0 enabled citizen services. At the heart of this transformation and a lot of digital initiatives is a young and dynamic leader who embodies the spirit of both continuity and change. He's a lawyer by training, a reformer by instinct, and speaker by conviction. One of the youngest ever to preside over a state legislature in India. And under his leadership, the Maharashtra Assembly has taken major strides towards paperless sessions, digital transparency, and citizen-centric governance. He represents the Kolaba constituency in South Mumbai. He's been a strong advocate for modern, transparent, and tech-driven governance, and also with adequate safeguards. The Maharashtra Assembly, of course, has taken a lot of reformist moves under his leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, may I invite on stage the Speaker of the Maharashtra Assembly, Rahul Narvekar. Firstly, Rahul, thanks so much for making the time and for gracing us with your presence. It means a great deal for us as this is our inaugural India Web 3.0 Summit. We are, of course, in the capital city of a state which has defined itself as a digital capital of India. The Chief Minister, Devendra Fadnavis, has taken upon himself the target of Maharashtra being the first fully land tokenized state in the country. So tell me, as the Speaker of the Maharashtra Assembly, you preside over one of the most important legislative houses in this country, in the economic powerhouse of the country. What does digital governance mean for you in the context of Maharashtra and in the wider national context?
Well, good evening to you as well as all the distinguished guests present here today in the city of Mumbai. Needless to state, I must first congratulate you all for taking up an issue which is paramount for the aspirations of all Indians of making India the superpower, economic superpower in the days to come. And this is only possible if we implement the right digitalization programs at the right pace. So congratulations for taking up an issue which is important to everyone. To take your question head on, I think digitalization is no more a choice, but a compulsion for every state, for every country which aspires to grow and perhaps lead the world economically or otherwise. Having said that, India is an aspirational society. Today we are the fourth largest economy in the world. By 2027, we aspire to be the third largest economy in the world. And by 2047, we aspire to be a fully developed nation. Keeping these goals in mind, one would find it difficult to achieve these without a proper program for digitalization. We've seen the benefits of these digitalization programs. Let me just give you a small example. As the Speaker of the State Legislative Assembly, as a presiding officer, when I took up office, I saw that it was almost impossible for a common man to have access to debates,
legislations, discussions which have taken up on the floor of the House. In a democracy, it is the representatives of the people who make laws for them, who decide policies. And if a common man does not have access to this information, I don't think the spirit of democracy can be celebrated in its real form. And we took up this program of digitalization in the state legislature, where now we have digitalized data from 1937 to 2025. All the debates which have taken place on the floor of the House, all the legislations that have been passed on the floor of the House, all the discussions that have taken place, all the motions, all the resolutions that have been passed are now available on a click from 1947 to date. So every individual who has to seek information on any issue, which can be used in the courts of law, which can be used perhaps for setting up an example, for policy making, for giving suggestions, is now available to the common man. This will not only give access to the common man, but will enhance the spirit of democracy, shall enhance good governance, which shall ultimately result in the overall progress of a state or a country. Therefore, digitalization is important at every sphere. If you look at the government of Maharashtra, we have huge land records available today, all online. There was a day when you had to run to the Tehsil office, to the Talati office for getting a single 712 extract. Today, that is available to you online, sitting in your boardroom or in your office, you can access it. This has not only made information available, this has saved time, this has, of course, controlled a lot of red tapeism and perhaps corruption to a great extent. And therefore, this is the route for progress of the country and the state.
Along with the historical data which has been, or the historical records that have been digitalized, you of course have also presided over the embrace of e-Vidhan in the Maharashtra Assembly as part of several other states which have also done that, but you've embraced that with a lot of enthusiasm. I think the Prime Minister also took a personal interest in that. If you can tell us a little bit about that and what it means for the legislative lawmaking process.
So as we all are aware that India has adopted the federal structure of governance, where we have state governments, where we have a central national government, and each of them functioning as a legislative body that legislates for its state, and the center legislates for the country at large. And the Honorable Prime Minister had a very clear vision that if federalism has to be protected and developed in its right scope and idea, then transparency as well as availability of information of legislative bodies should be made easily accessible on a common platform. So I think e-Vidhan is a platform where all the legislative bodies in the country, information will be available on a common platform. Sitting in Maharashtra, I would be able to access the information of the legislature in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Punjab, and it will also work towards providing, enhancing the working culture and efficiency of every legislative body. So I think in a democracy, we have three wings. We have the executive, legislature, judiciary. And more the transparency in each of these wings will definitely result in progress and strengthening democratic values in the country.
So digital governance, of course, is not just about tech. It is also about building trust. With tech, of course, we've seen a huge expansion of digital public infrastructure with Aadhaar, with UPI, with direct benefit transfers, and so on and so forth. How can innovations like, in your view, innovations like blockchain, open data systems, smart contracts, to what extent can they enhance transparency and accountability in our public institutions for larger public good?
Well, when we talk about transparency, it has to be looked in two folds, I believe. Transparency brings in trust. Now, transparency has to be there with regards to the data that is available and that data being protected. Because at the end of the day, a government or the law enforcing agency or the administrative bodies have limitations to the information that would be available. So unless this is a voluntary process where the community at large participates, we really won't be able to have a huge data bank that we would necessarily aspire for the optimal usage of this platform. So one, this of course enhances transparency with regards to the administration where information is freely available. So I think when the Right to Information Act was introduced about 2 decades back, or at that point of time, if the digitalization program was as aggressive, maybe that legislation would not even be necessary. Today, with this information available, it's on a click of a button that you get that. Under the Right to Information Act, you had to apply, you had to ask for information, it would be given to you. But under the digitalization programs, this information would be available to you at the click of a button.
So you make an important point. And I think you began by talking about Maharashtra's larger economic vision. So let me ask you a larger question that Maharashtra has an avowed ambition of reaching $1 trillion economy size by 2029. What is how important is this move toward digitization and digital economy, data centers, and so on within that larger vision? And where do you see that going?
So, insofar as Maharashtra is concerned, I take extreme pride in stating that Maharashtra stands to still lead as being one of the most industrialized states in the country. It's number one when it comes to FDI, foreign direct investments. It contributes significantly to the GDP of the country. Mumbai itself contributes almost 14% of the GDP of the country. It, of course, houses the financial capital of the country. And having said that, Maharashtra today aspires to be a $1 trillion economy in the next few years. Maharashtra today has one of the largest ports in Asia coming up. Maharashtra today has one of the finest state-of-the-art industrial network available in the country. And therefore, there is a lot riding on Maharashtra when India's economic progress is concerned. Having said that, if Maharashtra really wants to achieve this vision and this dream, it is very important for us to embark quickly and efficiently on the story of digitalization. And while we say that, while I speak about digitalization, while I speak about data assimilation, while I talk about data being available easily to the people at large, I would like to make a larger point out here. It's not only important and paramount to make data available, but it's even more important to work towards data protection. And that is what is going to drive the next economic surge or leadership in the world. Today, unfortunately, the data that our country perhaps has, which our state has, to secure it, the infrastructure is not adequate to have it within our boundaries. A lot of it is beyond our boundaries. Today, our data should be restricted to our boundaries. And if we can achieve that, we would be securing ourselves in all possible manner. So data protection, creating as many new data centers is very, very essential, which I think Maharashtra would be looking forward in the times to come. I think the way ahead globally, wars are no more going to be fought on the fields, on the borders, but they would also be significantly fought on the basis of data that is available with each country. So I think it's paramount, it's significant, it's very important to ensure that data protection is also looked upon very seriously, as seriously, if not more, with regards to creation of data banks.
So, Rahul, you mentioned earlier earlier in your exposition about the right to information and how if there had been far more technology available then the shape of that may have been very different. So, my question to you is, and this is my last question of the evening, really, that given the state of technology where it is now, given the huge benefits of digitization that we have seen, given the kind of reforms that you yourself have presided over in your space in the legislature, where do you see the next 3 or 4 or 5 years unfolding for Maharashtra and India, and India's role in the next phase of evolution for the internet?
Well, as we all know, India, as we speak today, is one of the leading exporters of software technology. Indian talent is working all over the world, may it be the Silicon Valley, may it be Europe, or may it be the Far East. Indian talent is seen working in this sphere around the world. India happens to be the youngest populous society in the world today, with an average mean population of about 29 years. United States of America standing at 34 and China standing at 41. So we are the youngest nation in the world today. And if we have to use this demographic advantage to enhance our economic goals, we need to convert this youngest population into skilled youngest population. And believe me, if we can convert this youngest population to a skilled young population, India will be the power engine for growth in the world. There won't be a single economy which will be able to work without Indian human resource. So focus of Maharashtra also is on converting young population into skilled population, especially in the field which is very conducive to the conditions available in Maharashtra, where we are focusing towards software related education and skilling of individuals. And I think that is the way forward for economic as well as overall progress of the state and the country.
Well, that's a great upbeat note to end this session on. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand for Rahul Narvekar.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to Money Control, your ultimate destination in the ever-evolving world of finance, business, markets, policy, and technology. India's preeminent news platform, driven by facts and fueled by data. A platform made in India, for India, and for the world. Moneycontrol.com has a staggering reach of 100 million plus monthly active users and 6.02 million daily active users. Being a transformative digital force, reshaping how we engage with money, markets, and news. Setting us apart is our commitment to delivering accurate information and empowering financial decision-making in a dynamic ecosystem. Seeking a deeper dive into the financial realm, we present Money Control Pro, a powerhouse of exclusive insights, providing actionable investment ideas and expert analysis. Because in today's fast-paced world, informed decisions demand both information and expertise. And we have 1 million plus Money Control Pro total paid subscribers and 100% return in 1.5 years, beating the market. Explore market trends, access expert opinions, and utilize essential financial tools all at your fingertips. Join the millions who trust Moneycontrol.com for their financial journey, where facts meet finance and data drives decisions. Think markets, think Money Control.
Wants to know what's the best way to grow? Let's go. Go farther. So far ahead that the competition can't spot you. Let alone catch you. And grow your audience's insight. Because stocks may go up or down, but knowledge is invaluable. Go. Assemble the A-team. The ones who reach the top and then keep going. Go into uncharted territories. Blur the lines between media and technology. And watch as you make wealth grow. Go. Build partnerships with the very best. And grow your voice. Because the world needs India's perspective more than ever. Go into India's heartland. Speak her languages. Tell her stories. Grow her ambitions. Go. Make a difference. Create a platform for policymakers, trendsetters, and change makers. Because the only way to grow is to grow together. We are Network 18. and we are always on the go, enabling India to grow.
Welcome to Money Control, your ultimate destination in the ever-evolving world of finance, business, markets, policy, and technology. India's preeminent news platform, driven by facts and fueled by data. A platform made in India, and for the world. Moneycontrol.com has a staggering reach of 100 million plus monthly active users and 6.02 million daily active users. Being a transformative digital force, reshaping how we engage with money, markets, and news. Setting us apart is our commitment to delivering accurate information and empowering financial decision-making in a dynamic ecosystem. Seeking a deeper dive into the financial realm, we present Money Control Pro, a powerhouse of exclusive insights, providing actionable investment ideas and expert analysis. Because in today's fast-paced world, informed decisions demand both information and expertise. And we have 1 million plus Money Control Pro total paid subscribers and 100% return in 1.5 years, beating the market. Explore market trends, access expert opinions, and utilize essential financial tools all at your fingertips. Join the millions who trust moneycontrol.com for their financial journey, where fact.
Want to know what's the best way to grow? Let's go. Go farther. So far ahead that the competition can't spot you, let alone catch you, and grow your audience's insight. Because stocks may go up or down, but knowledge is invaluable. Go. Assemble the A team, the ones who reach the top, and then keep going. Go into uncharted territories. Blur the lines between media and technology.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Moving on, every digital revolution needs its builders, the visionaries who create the foundation others will build on. From blockchain education, drivers to developer ecosystems, and the rise of Web 3.0 gaming, India is quietly assembling its own tech stack for the decentralized internet. The momentum is real, but the question is, how do we scale it? To lead this powerful conversation, please welcome a thought leader who has been at the forefront of India's digital transformation, Dr. Arvind Gupta, co-founder and head of Sutra and the Digital India Foundation. And joining him are pioneers driving India's Web 3.0 revolution, Sumit Gupta, co-founder and CEO, CoinDCX. Beatrix Callaghan, Sales Director, Canton. Edul Patel, co-founder and CEO, Admudrex and Sabermoney. Rachel Conlan, CMO, Binance. Let's give them a big round of applause. Oh.
Thank you. I'm back. And this time it's good to be, instead of answering questions, asking questions. And from people who have more knowledge than me. It's always good to learn. You know, one of my professors said, if you are the person who knows all the answers, you're in the wrong room. So I'm in a room which is full of very, very intellectual, intelligent people, but also people who are actually doing it, who are actually living the life every day. So this is going to be as much educating for me as well as for the whole audience, and the audience electronically on digital channels and everywhere else. So thank you for joining us, all of you. I think when we started this conversation this evening, you know, 2 or 3 things have come out. I will trust this panel to take it home for all of us, to summarize, to give us the golden nuggets that have come out from a lot of questions that were asked throughout the panel. So can I request one of the organizers to close that door, please? Okay, so, you know, I think enough has been said about India's unique offering in the digital space to the world, which is digital public infrastructure. There is hardly anybody in this room who does not use UPI or, of course, Aadhaar or the India stack. I think this conversation is based on an event, one of the biggest fintech festivals that happened in Mumbai right here about 3 weeks ago, where the Prime Minister of India, along with Prime Minister of UK, and another Prime Minister who was former Prime Minister were present. So it shows the importance that digital finance is happening, is taking shape as a narrative in India. Now, as I said, this conversation is going to be about the Web 3.0. The Web 3.0 stack, let's call it, for lack of a better word, which, you know, as the whole paraphernalia and all these great standees around this room are talking about transparency, trust, enabling innovation, interoperability, privacy by design. Exactly the same principles as India stack is built on, right? So, Sumit, you had DCX. You're one of the large Web 3.0 player. How do you see India and moving into this Web 3.0 stack, if we may call that, and how does it look like for India and the Web 3.0 stack?
Sure, Arvind. I think Web3 stack is now being talked about, but we are at a unique juncture where there is an opportunity in front of us to replicate the success that India has seen in the UPI. And that success is possible, and now we are sitting at that juncture. What I mean to say that is when UPI came, it was an open interoperable payment system which gave payment solution to 1 billion people. And now as things evolve, I think it's also important that we upgrade that stack, and Web3 stack essentially solves for that. In my opinion, it brings the new digital public infrastructure which solves for trust, which solves for openness, transparency at the core of it. And the only thing that is important in this is one, scalability, because you need to have like 18 billion transactions you mentioned in a month, right? That's one problem that needs to be solved. In terms of developers, how can you have more and more people, developers contributing to the Web3 stack? That's another problem. And then third is the regulations. How does India come up with smart regulations?
We'll come about regulations in the second half of this panel. But so what you are arguing and is that a Web 3.0 stack makes sense for India?
Absolutely.
And what does it look like is something that I wanted to hear from you, but maybe we can hold on to the second when we come back again. But that's a very important thing. Beatrice, you join us from Hong Kong today, or you've been in India long enough to become semi-Indian?
I've been here in India for a week now, so very
so
happy to be here.
you have heard throughout the conference that the tokenization of real-world assets.
Yes.
I think it probably got used maybe 100 times since the start of this event. You're doing it every day. You're living that life. As a use case, see, technology always exists. We've been saying that. You know, Sumit will agree, and when I come to Adal, he will agree. It's the use cases. It's in a country like India, which is very diverse. Literacy levels, income levels are very diverse. It's the use case which is important. And sometimes the consumers of that use case really don't know what technology they're using, as long as they're happy using that. The layer of abstraction at that level. So real world assets.
Yes.
You know, I was told by one senior cabinet minister in India, about 80% of our civil litigation cases are property matters, where there is a title dispute. That's a huge issue in India. So, and what we are hearing is one of the biggest Web 3.0 use case is what you solve for.
Absolutely.
So, and you've studied India over the last 1 week and maybe more. Give us your thoughts on this use case in India. What should India do?
Absolutely. Well, for a little bit of context, the company I work for, Digital Asset, the Canton Network, we're responsible for tokenizing over $6 trillion worth of real world assets. So as you say, this is something that I do every day. And India is an incredibly interesting place to look at. As you said, looking at remittances, land titles, the opportunities for the tokenization journey in India are substantial and hugely significant, more so than any other place in the world at the moment. So I think when you're looking at the tokenization process, what it is that that enables is this transparency across multiple different kind of entities, institutions, workflow. Every single person involved is able to have an end-to-end vision or end-to-end view of what a traditional process look like. With the tokenization process, you can do things like create natively digital assets. So these are new products, new assets that you're able to introduce into a digital world. This has huge opportunities around the land titles as well, or you can actually just digitize traditional assets. So with use cases that we see at the moment and in Hong Kong that we focus on with the distinction of natively issued assets and then tokenized assets, we look at things like tokenized bonds. So for HSBC, the Hong Kong-based bank, we've done a bond tokenization platform known as HSBC Orion. This has seen huge incremental growth for them, over 45% increase in adoption and in sales from that side of things. So these are just some examples of what tokenizing or digitizing a traditional asset might be able to bring on. And then if you look at something like a natively issued asset, this is the creation of a new product that you're able to put into the digital world. You can think of something like Goldman Sachs. So we have created the Goldman Sachs digital asset platform, and this is where they're able to issue new products. And that as well sees huge incremental growth. So with the case of India, being able to take these different areas and different focus points and being able to bring them into the digital world has huge benefits, not just from a profit perspective or a growth perspective, but actually, the existing way of things being done, you're able to reduce risk, increase growth, increase efficiency, and improve the existing way of doing things, as well as bringing new products into light.
So Beatrice, what you're saying is, if you tokenize property, you
Yes.
can fractionalize it and take fractional credit, do fractional ownership, and
Absolutely.
also you cannot, as a consumer, you're protected that your builder cannot amortize that to 5 different banks.
Absolutely. So if you
Banks
look
are comfortable, you are comfortable. It's just the
everyone's
builder is
comfortable.
not
Everyone's
comfortable.
comfortable. Everyone in that multi-party workflow is comfortable. When you look at the fractionalization process, what you can do is essentially using kind of granular levels of code, you're able to implement levels of privacy. So who within a particular workflow is able to see what? Who is a signatory? Who can verify a transaction? Who has access to visibility? Which kind of regulators or auditors need to be able to see different points of information or parts of information? All of that, when you're talking about the tokenization process, is what is able to be shared across multiple different people and what can be kept private. When you're thinking about these type of multi-party workflows, there is information that, as you say, your bank might necessarily need to see your passport information or where you live, but your neighbor shouldn't be able to do so, or a competing bank shouldn't be able to do so.
Absolutely.
So it's very important, the level of granular privacy that is enabled within a tokenization process to bring the right amount of kind of value and end-to-end value add to the process that you're tokenizing, be it land titles, remittances, bond tokenization, government digital securities, all of these, you're able to kind of get to the granular level of detail and make sure that it's an improved version of before.
Great, thank you, Beatrice. Adil, I was talking to you offline, and you were talking about remittances. You do run a remittance platform. India is losing, on a back of the envelope calculation, about $8 to $10 billion every year in paying the so-called banks and middlemen on just $150 billion of remittances that we receive. I mean, the global standard is 3%. We pay anywhere from 8 to 10%. This has been the biggest challenge of our diaspora, our talent that moves overseas. Tell us a little bit more how the world of stable coins, is that a bad word? Somewhere I heard that's a bad word. I've been writing a lot about it, that India needs to understand the value in stable coins, in off-ramping and on-ramping digital assets, for remittances. What is your view on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my opinion, currencies are the first real world assets that have been tokenized, and stablecoins are a representation of that. And the way they work, the way you should think of it is just like how UPI made money transfers close to zero and near instant, stablecoins make cross-border money transfers close to zero, pay fees and near instant. That does everything to cross-border payments, what UPI did to local payments. It means that today,
I,
at an
I would
average,
like you to explain this more to this audience. We have
Yeah, yeah.
kids studying overseas. We still pay a lot of bank fees.
Yeah. Let me just walk you through. Someone who is in UK sending money to India takes 3 to 5 days to send money, costs 3 to 5%. India receives $130 billion of just consumer remittances. Apart from that, $1.7 trillion worth of trade that happens. Across all of this, Indians spend close to $30 billion in fees just to banks, just to move literally our own money. Uh, I was reading a conversation somewhere that a person who's working outside India spends a day working just for the bank every month, just to pay the fees to the bank. That's effectively the cost of doing all of this. That's not only that, because the costs are so high, people are anchored to send north of $2,000 or $3,000 back, right? So if the cost of sending every transaction reduces, you can send as low as $10 back to India, and it would still not matter. That's where I think actually things like stable coins or CBDCs or some chimera in between of those two comes into play, where it makes those transfers very cheap, makes those transfers instant, and those stable coins coupled with the right convertibility to INR back to fiat on both legs makes them actually usable. So that end-to-end flow is effectively what we built. Of course, there are a whole bunch of requirements around it, and we'll definitely get to that in the second half of the conversation. But remittance, I think, is by far the largest use case of directly tokenizing a real world asset that all of us know very well, which is currency.
Great. Thank you, Idil. Rachel, I think, you are, at a sea level of one of the largest exchanges in the world. I think from your lens, how do you see India play in this global Web 3.0 perspective? And how does India become a leader? We've been talking about this, India should lead this. But I think you have the key to how should it lead that. So tell us a little bit more of your thoughts.
Yes, as you say, we're in a very privileged position, of being one of the largest exchanges and operating, in over 100 countries. And I'm in a very privileged position of getting to visit and spend time with the communities and retail users, the institutional community and the developer community in many of those markets. And I would argue that India has the greatest competitive edge that I've seen globally at this moment in time.
Nobody is going to doubt you on that.
Greatest competitive edge. You have youth population, the median age being 29, as the speaker just shared prior. You have a world-class developer community representing already over 12% of the Web3 developer community globally. You have over 1,000 Web3 businesses that I know about at this moment in time, and already domestically grown businesses like Polygon, like CoinDCX, that are making regional and global waves. And I think with crypto adoption, India, as everyone knows in this room, crypto adoption is one of the fastest growing in India. And I think what needs to happen as part of that, and it's been great to see this in my visits and during this trip especially, is the commitment to regulatory clarity. I think we're at that pivotal intersection of regulatory evolution, which is going to support the thriving growth of this industry, as well as public and private dialogue around how we work together. And that's not just Binance, that's Binance and CoinDCX working together to ensure that we're educating. But most importantly is narratives. You just asked the question about stablecoins. We need to stop talking about the technology and start focusing on the benefits of the technology for the different communities that we're targeting, and focus on how it's improving the everyday person's life, the institutional life, the developers. And I think India is in a position where it can build decentralized solutions at scale faster than anywhere else in the world. You've already got that proven digital infrastructure that Sumit you spoke about earlier. So I'm very excited, and while we're very bullish on this industry as Binance, we're very bullish on India being not just a participant in the space, but truly a leader in this global economy and this very ever-changing global economy that we live in at the moment.
Oh, thank you very much, Rachel. I think in the last 5 minutes, what I want to focus is, we've heard a lot of good things, but India is India. we change very fast, but does take a little bit of time still. That fast is the fastest in the world, but still, it's federal system. What are and I'm going to reverse if you don't mind. What are some of the key things that we should do now? And I know, everybody talks about regulation not keeping pace with innovation. But, this has been around for a while. We've been, experimenting with it. There are many experiments. There are many startups. There's a lot of funding coming. I just met 2 venture capitalists. I don't know. I don't see them in the room. They may be striking a deal outside. There is money now that is going into this. But what are if you had to give some thoughts on what India should do both at the national level and at the federal level, from a regulatory policy perspective, to make this happen?
Well, I think firstly, I'm going to talk about this through the lens of the user and through the lens of the ecosystem development. And I think through the lens of the user, the policy and regulation has to be, it cannot be a roadblock to users entering into the space. And it should not create more fear, or it should not push people to alternative decentralized solutions. And I think one of the greatest areas there is around the taxation of users. That is something that, we hosted an event of over 500 of our community last night. And it was a topic that came up with nearly everyone I spoke to afterwards. So I think clarity around that and a more user-first approach is going to be
what
critical.
I'm hearing from you, Richard, and that's a very important point, it's going to, thanks to Moneycontrol, to millions and millions of viewers across the world, is you're not asking for no taxation. You're asking for clarity on taxation.
Clarity on tax and looking at where the tax ownership falls, whether it's on industry players like us or on the user.
That's a good suggestion. Idil, you're next. As I said, we're going to reverse the order. What are your asks?
No, so I think, in my opinion, what has been true is that the industry has always gone and asked for like a very wide regulatory clarity. But I think what is really needed is that there are now very clearly differently identifiable use cases across the board, right?
So give us 1 or 2
Yeah.
thoughts.
Like, for example,
the clock is there. So
yeah. Like, for example, let's say, how do you regulate the usage of stable coins or INR pegged real world assets in this broader ecosystem? And which is the regulator that takes that up? Is that a similar framework to the digital payments framework that gets followed or not?
And it's been proven that regulated stable coins actually make a lot of sense. It's create a lot of value. So number 1, regulated stable coins. 2.
Yeah, of course. I think.
See, you are on TV. You have to ask things which is national implications.
Yeah, yeah. I think regulated stable coins, clarity around exchanges and what their businesses should be. Who's allowed to do custody? Who's allowed to do brokerage? Who's allowed to act as the exchange?
More clarity and regulation around exchanges.
Correct.
Thank you. I'm going to come to you next, Beatrice.
I think mutual objectives, the communication across all the different entities involved in the tech stack. You've got something from a layer 1, you've got tokenization, technology, you've got exchanges. What are the mutual and desired objectives of India as a whole? And when they are decided, then everyone can come together to achieve them. I think that's something that's needed before you start looking at what does the workflow look like from a tokenization perspective, and where is it that India specifically wants to see change.
Great. And you have the last word, my friend.
I have 3 specific points. One is, and I'll make it very clear and straight, one is reduction and rationalization of taxes. It's a big problem, like Rachel mentioned. Number 2, supporting the domestic industry. Right now, a lot of builders are just moving offshore. They don't trust what will happen in India. That needs to be brought back. The talent, we can't afford to have brain drain. And number 3, a structured consultative approach between government and private players. These 3, if comes together, leave the rest to Indian builders and entrepreneurs. They'll do everything to make India the leader.
And now after this, you need to talk to Bhupendra because he's doing that in Sutra.
The only thing I would add on to that, and I think it's something that's very important and needs to be talked about at the forefront, is education. We have to ensure the financial literacy is here to enter into this space in a secure way, because we can educate public.
I'm so glad you brought that into conversation, because I think it's a two-way street. The industry needs to work together to have set their narrative straight. And I'm speaking, as I said, I was supposed to be moderating, but I'm giving an answer now. The industry also needs to come together. You all said it and speak the same voice. Biggest challenge as a policymaker is that we hear different versions of the same asks from different people in the industry. So have some unified common minimum programs, as they say in politics. And two is, if I hear correctly from you, is user and financial literacy or what they're dealing with as, to protect consumer rights.
And meet them where they are, because we know it's every different type of user in this market, and we need to ensure that we're helping them where they are on
We
their
are
journey.
at the top of the time allocated to us. I can just say that this was the conversation we need, we needed to have at the end, because I think we have summarized not only how India benefits, what India can do to tweak a leadership position, great use cases. I mean, the investment potential is right there. We save all the money that we are giving out to Web 2.0 brokers, I would say. And then something on how, not only what, but also on the how, what can be done. So I really thank the four of you for being on this panel, for staying late with us today, and giving us your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all our panelists for sharing such sharp and inspiring insights on building India's Web 3.0 ecosystem for the world. And a special thanks to Dr. Arvind for steering this discussion with clarity and depth. Up next, we have a conversation that looks at how global Web 3.0 trends are shaping India's digital economy. Please welcome Hamsini Karthik, Moneycontrol, to take this conversation ahead, and requesting SP Sekar, head of APAC at Binance, a global leader in Web 3.0 and digital asset space, to join her for a conversation. Please welcome them.
Welcome to Bombay. You were just when we were chatting up, you said this is your first time in Bombay, so welcome to Bombay and welcome back to India as well. Let's get started. What are you seeing as the new developments, as the new trends? What is so engaging for you now for Binance in India? Where all, from a regulatory perspective, have you progressed? What are the things that you're really liking in the country right now?
Thank you. Firstly, good evening to everyone who's attended this event. Thank you for your presence. It means a lot to us here at Binance, and a pleasure to be on stage with you as well. So let me attack the questions in a number of ways, right? Some of the panelists before have shared that India leads the pack when it comes to digital asset adoption. Let's put some statistics on that. APAC as a whole has a 69 to 70% growth year on year. Is that clear at the back? Better now? Okay. So APAC has a 69 to 70% growth rate year on year when it comes to digital asset adoption. India for the last 3 years has been the leader globally in digital asset adoption. So what that means is if you compute the two together, India's at the top end of that range, right? And this is a trend that's going to continue well into the future. So that's the first area of interest for us. As a business, that's obviously an area of interest to us. Binance is a digital asset ecosystem. So we've moved past the stage of being a core trading platform. Now we are a full-scale ecosystem. And India is one of the countries where we want to entrench ourselves into the future, I should say. What's attractive by India is also the fact that there's multiple angles of this, right? From a labor participation perspective, Rachel shared earlier, our CMO shared earlier, that it has 11 to 12% of contribution to total global developer pools. Now that number obviously could be a lot higher if the ecosystem could soak up that capacity. It's a demand and supply issue, isn't it? So there's labor supply, but the question is whether there's enough demand for that labor. So that's another area of fascination for us. If we could collaborate and if we could contribute transparently to building that ecosystem, then there's going to be a net benefit to the development of this labor pool and the number of developers who could contribute to this, and that would be a domestic asset. I think the other half of your question, I think, was what has been the regulatory approach for us?
Yeah.
Now, we are currently licensed in 21, 22 countries around the world. And these are full-scale digital asset operating licenses. These are not AML registrations only, right? And as Rachel shared earlier, we're present in about 100 different countries from an operational perspective. Coping with regulations is our bread and butter. We do this day in, day out. We've done this day in, day out for the last 8 years and have grown to be the world's largest digital asset exchange. To give you a sense for that, we have processed $150 trillion worth of digital assets in the last 8 years. We clear close to 1.5 million transactions a second. And we've done that at scale. We've done that while keeping customer assets safe. We've done that responsibly, and we've been an ecosystem partner to hundreds and hundreds and potentially thousands of startups around the world in this space. So that's basically been our entry point and our approach to regulation, our approach to India, and what we hope are our long-term aspirations for India.
So you believe India is truly Web 3.0 ready right now as we speak?
India has dipped her toes into Web 3.0 from a architecture perspective. And then there is the demographic perspective, right? Indian users hold currently about 5 to 10 billion conservative estimates in digital assets, and that number is going to go to 30 billion in the next 3 to 5 years. So if you ask me whether the ship has sailed on Indians' participation in digital assets, yes, the answer is yes. Right? The question is, how do we build a framework to accommodate for this in a way that provides clarity on what elements of digital assets are permitted, which have to have certain degrees of control, which are not permitted. That clarity, I think, is yet to come.
Perfect. I'll stay put on the point on clarity and maybe weave in another layer of, I'll go back to the point on regulations as well. Where do you think there needs to be a little more work to be done in terms of making India from a regulatory standpoint, bridging innovation and growth and bringing in new technologies, etc.? Where do you think we still have scope for improvement?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get this a lot, and there's always underlying assumption that innovation and regulation, have a trade-off. It's not the case, right? Smart regulation actually fosters innovation, and so, and there are countries. So among G20 countries that took a position that digital asset adoption would be part of their national frameworks, most of them have proceeded down the path of smart regulation. What that looks like is basically activity-based licensing. There's usually a category of license, right, which is financial services licensing, but then it breaks down authorizations on activity basis. So if you take an exchange, there is a few components that are immediately clear-cut, right? There is the order book, that's the matching engine, there is clearing, there is settlement, there is custody, right? These are the basic foundational building blocks of any exchange. I'm just using an exchange as an example. Then you can break that down further into categories of participants, right? Dealer brokers, exchanges, custodians, OTC desks. So different jurisdictions have taken different approaches. But the end goal is you provide clarity when you start thinking about it this way. And I think that immediately gives you a signal. Okay, these are the activities that we want to kind of dive into from a service provider perspective. And then the end users have clarity on exactly what they're getting into. Now, you can go even further. You can have product level approvals, authorizations. That's the next layer, right? And then you get to a level of granularity and precision. And none of this is stifling, by the way, because we deal with this globally around the world, right? And all global exchanges and local exchanges know how to deal with this. So there is nothing in this that is stifling innovation. It actually lends to innovation. There's transparency, right? And then there is consumer protection as a result of this. And it's an ethical way to do business.
Absolutely. And from what you spoke, it's also evident that the scope can be much beyond just financial services. There may be a larger play in some of the non-financial services segment as well. Would you want to elaborate on that?
If I'm getting the question right, I think you're asking about uses of blockchain, decentralized ledger
yes.
technology beyond
Yes.
financial services. And, as one of the panelists mentioned earlier, very astutely, innovation in this space has begun with currency, right? It'll
Yes.
progress to innovation in financial services. And why? Because it is ripe for digitization. It's already digitized in many ways, but there's lots of friction points, right? And a lot of intermediaries. So I think that's where the innovation is strongest. But we also don't see much of this. It's not discussed much, but there's already blockchain innovation. And actually, it preceded some financial services innovation in areas of trade finance, in areas of remittance,
Yes.
in areas of agri-commodities, right? So there's many, many sectors which have incorporated blockchain technologies. And I think that's nothing new.
Perfect. And what are the complementary synergies you believe that this is going to sort of lead the whole sector towards, and whether in terms of enhancing technology, reducing costs, etc.? Where do you see this really acting as a pillar of strength?
I think it's going to be an economic amplifier, right? Think about it in economic terms. Your GDP is a function of money supply and velocity, right? So let's use an example. I think it's easiest. Let's talk about the digitization of the rupee. Now, I'm agnostic as to what format you take. You can call yourself a CBDC, you can call yourself a private stablecoin, you can call yourself a rupee-backed token. There's lots of misconceptions in these categorizations, and I'll come to some of them later, but let's take that as a use case. One of the main reasons why the US has moved on the path of rehabilitating the approach to stablecoins, and the Genius Act in particular, is because it makes the US dollar, it provides greater velocity to the US dollar, right? You now have interoperable and programmable money that is backed one-to-one by your national currency that is going to become a means of settlement for global trade, right? Why do people use USD for global trade? Because it is the currency of settlement of choice. And so when you then digitize it and make it interoperable and programmable, you're just amplifying that effect, right? You're creating new avenues for your money to work and flow. And so if India were minded, as many other countries are looking into, to digitize your rupee, you're actually making it interoperable. You're making it a choice for settlement globally. Now, obviously for countries with capital controls and currency control considerations, you have to bear in mind the trade-offs. But there are ways to manage those risks, in my view, while allowing for the innovation component to foster. Just on the point, I mean, like, I think there was some discussion about what's a CBDC, what's a stable coin, what's a rupee-backed token. And, I think we have to be mindful of the trade-offs, right? So a public-private partnership when it comes to launching a digital version of a currency has proven to be the most effective way to increase adoption. Now, CBDCs are talked about as a panacea of sorts, but there is also bank intermediation in CBDCs. When a central bank or a central bank entity issues CBDCs, where does commercial deposits go? Because CBDCs have to have yield, right, in order to have adoption. They have to have some returns. And if those returns are attractive, equally as attractive as commercial banks, then commercial bank deposits are going to flow into the CBDC architecture. Where does that leave commercial banks and their capacity to lend in credit cycles? So there is bank disintermediation even for CBDCs, right? It's not a problem that's only relevant to stablecoins. So I think my point is you have to choose your technologies bearing in mind the trade-offs. And part of what smart regulation does is understand those trade-offs and give people legitimate choices and control for risks. But again, if done correctly, none of this stifles innovation.
Absolutely. As APAC head, and you've seen various regions yourself, what are the 2 or 3 top-of-the-mind learnings that you believe are fit enough for you to implement in India, or India will benefit from those learnings?
Okay. So I think one thing we're seeing in APAC is the degree of specificity in conversations around how to build products. Right. So, and I think in India, the conversation is still stuck in, well, should we have only AML regulation or should we move past that? So the conversation is quite far behind. Australia, for example, is having a conversation as they roll, and to bear in mind, Australia was also on an AML registration policy, right? And they've moved quite quickly through the Treasury bill, which is in exploratory draft format now, to a model where they're talking intelligently about, well, should custody, if I license someone for custody, does that mean the technical stack for custody needs to be onshore? Or is it just the entity that has the contractual obligation for custody that needs to be onshore, right? In Hong Kong, they're having conversations about, well, we now license exchanges and brokers, but can we have a model where a broker could plug into an order book and a liquidity pool that's offshore, right? And so these conversations are incredibly nuanced and incredibly advanced in other tier 1 markets around the world. And so I think that's the first learning. Second learning is that, and this is not a conversation that's had enough. Like when you have conversations in India about compliance, sometimes it takes the tone of, well, that's only a situation in India. That's not true. It's a global standard, right? So we are a fully KYC platform everywhere around the world where we operate. And so I think the conversation needs to recognize that this is a base standard for the rest of the world, right? But there's much more to do on top. And the third conversation is, education, right? That's not talked about enough. Finance Academy, which is a non-profit arm of finance, has 6-digit number of tutorials, webinars, documents, policy papers we put out every day, every week, every month which is pure information and it's totally free. A lot of the information talks and trains people on the technical architecture first, because we talk a lot about the financial architecture, but unless you understand the technical architecture, you don't understand the product, right? So what is blockchain? What is a decentralized ledger technology? What are private keys and public keys? How does hashing work? How do you add blocks to a chain? Why are there different chains? What are bridges, right? What is an interoperable chain architecture? What are the challenges we haven't solved from a technical layer? All of these information is critical to understanding the base. And on top of the base, we built a financial architecture, right? So that is the third learning, is that the degree of knowledge and the degree of education needs to improve. And this is uniform across the world, and that's something we invest very heavily into. But in India specifically, I think you have a young population who are digital natives, and they will catch on quickly. But I think these avenues of training and learning have to be amplified.
Perfect. With these learnings and maybe a little more as well, do you see Binance really playing an integral role in India's digital revolution, building up the digital stack in the way we're envisaging? Do you see us, how do you see that whole narrative play out?
Yeah, no, we want to be present in this market. We want to be deeply entrenched in the market. We would benefit from regulatory clarity, as would the local operators and other exchanges around the world who have interest in India. And that regulatory clarity has to be able to guide business decisions on how deeply we integrate and entrench ourselves into India. But leaving that aside, I think where we want to contribute most, what are the twin macro drivers of digital asset adoption globally? First, it is a multi-asset model, right? More and more service providers are moving to a world where in a single interface, in a single UX, without having to jump between environments, you now can access not just crypto, but your suite of financial services products, right? And that's the merger of Web 2 and Web 3. Two, real-world asset tokenization, right? These are usually asset classes which are not available to the average person because they require intensive upfront capital to get access to. But if you could tokenize them, and to Beatrice's point, whether you tokenize them via digital native tokens or whether you establish a token layer on top of a digital asset class, existing asset class, doesn't actually matter. You give the everyday person a fractionalized asset that he can actually afford.
Absolutely. I know time's up, but the conversation won't be complete if I don't ask this question. Indian talent pool is ripe enough for the kind of aspects that you spoke about. Where do we enhance talent? And with the advent of AI, etc., how do you see this sort of play out?
Well, you've got a very young population, a very astute population, right? And a population that adapts to technology very quickly, right? 10 years ago when UPI was being formulated, and I used to work for another tech company at that point, there was disbelief that the project took off at the rate that it took off, right? And you basically leapfrogged an entire generation of technologies. And now it's the standard business case that you study in terms of how a nation can implement a technical solution at scale, right? Seamlessly for the most part. And so I think the future is bright for India. Now, what would be the catalyst for unlocking all of that latent energy, ambition, as the keynote speakers mentioned earlier, the ambition for Maharashtra to become a $1 trillion economy, the ambition for India to become the second largest economy by 2030s, depends on human capital and pairing human capital with intellectual capital and with technical know-how, right? And we talk about AI as something distinct from humanness. It's not. Right? It has to be a symbiotic relationship for that to make sense. And so that is your greatest strength, I think, and time is on your side for now. But I think doing it in time, getting it done in time, executing at scale is going to be the game changer.
Lovely. I think we should wrap on that note. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sekhar and Hamshini, for the insightful conversation. As we come to the final conversation of the evening, we turn to the foundation on which every digital revolution must stand: security and trust. In a world built on data, decentralization, and constant connectivity, resilience isn't optional, it's essential. Now, to lead this important discussion, please welcome Shweta Punj, Moneycontrol. And joining her for this discussion is one of India's foremost voices on cybersecurity and digital trust, Please put your hands together for Lieutenant General Rajesh Pant, Chairman, Cybersecurity Association of India, Chairman, India Future Foundation, and Global Advisor, Cyber Peace.
Thank you, Shivani. Can we hear a big round of applause for Dr. Pant? You know, we've saved the best for the last. We've been talking about the need for digital currencies. We've spoken about frameworks. We've spoken about the importance. But now we will be talking about the dangers that it poses, the importance of cybersecurity, and how vulnerable we are. And if there's one person who can really speak from first-hand experience of this space, it is Dr. Rajesh Pant. He is the former cybersecurity czar of India. An institution was set up to regulate the space, and he was leading that organization until recently. Dr. Pant, thank you so much. This morning, there was one news story that really made me think, and it was very, very tragic. An 81-year-old man, and I'm sure all of you read this, an 81-year-old man lost all his life savings and his life to a cyber fraud. Did all of you read that story? Can I have a show of hands, please? So there, it's there in our lives. We are all victims of cybercrime, or have been victims of cybercrime, or could become victims of cybercrime. Not only that, not only individuals, organizations, JLR, a global brand, was shut for nearly 2.5 months because of a cyber fraud. The factory was shut down because of a cyber fraud. So I'd like to begin by asking you, Dr. Pant, on why are so many cyber crimes happening, not only in India, but across the world? In India, of course, we feel we are more vulnerable because financial literacy is one crucial aspect, and I think the regulatory aspect also. But if you could just take us through, what's really going on in terms of cyber crimes across the world?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the question, Shweta. Let me start with the big picture, which will explain why the World Economic Forum is saying consistently that cybercrime is the biggest man-made risk to the economic progress of nations. They've pegged it at $11 trillion last year, third largest economy in the world. And the reasons are many. Firstly, we are living through very turbulent geopolitical times. There are 2 wars going on. In cyberspace, unfortunately, there is a lack of laws. I was a member of the United Nations group of government experts, and it took them 20 years to come out with 11 non-binding norms for responsible behavior by states in cyberspace. There is a mutual legal assistance treaty. It takes too long. Letters rogatory take too long. People have forgotten the Talon manual. So geopolitical turbulence, lack of laws in cyberspace, and lack of attribution. All these cyber attacks that take place come through 2 to 3 hops. So you cannot find out what is the IP address behind the last IP address. So it's safe. So this is a perfect storm for cyber criminals to conduct cybercrime, right? And that is how and why the large number of cyber crimes are taking place. And finally, to your question about that 81-year-old, you see, this is a separate, the digital arrest aspect is a separate type of cybercrime where they are not attacking the system, they are hacking the brain. They are taking advantage of the fear factor, the psychological factor, the age factor. Most of these crimes you'll find will take place on weekends where the bank's responses are also not as good as weekdays. So there are the other reasons for it. But yes, India is one of the most cyber attacked nations in the world. Wow. One of the reasons is the sheer numbers. We have 900 million internet users, 1.3 billion phones. So naturally, when the numbers are large, the attacks will be more. But broadly, the vectors for cyber attacks, there are a range of vectors which start from phishing and ransomware and adware and the use of worms, and crime as a service has started. Let me just speak a little bit about ransomware as a service. Since you mentioned JLR, JLR was also a ransomware attack. So ransomware as a service means that earlier, while only some technical people used to carry out the attack, today you go to this ransom as a service operator, he's got an access broker. The access broker is already sitting inside a number of companies. And he also knows that from this company, you can get X number of dollars because he's seen the cyber insurance of that company. So he tells you from this company, you can get $100 million, from this company, $50 million. Then there is an expert who knows how to infiltrate. There's an expert who knows how to exfiltrate. And there is a negotiator who pops up in between. Because I have been in a number of these ransomware situations, and suddenly you find this guy comes up, he says, "Acha, theek hai, if you don't want to give 1.1 bitcoins, you give 1 bitcoin," or something like that, right? So there's a whole enterprise and an industry that has come up, which is why, cybersecurity has become so important.
Right, absolutely. So is the applause for the enormity of the problem, or that someone has really spelt it out for us? I want to understand from you, Dr. Pant, on how vulnerable is India. You mentioned the regulation bit. Our IT Act is 25 years old. We have just come up with a Data Protection Act. We don't have a cybersecurity regulator at the moment. So where are we in this journey when it comes to really ensuring that that we are safe in this whole data warfare?
So let me give you the good news first that in my time, there is a global cybersecurity index of the International Telecommunications Union. That is the standard by which nations are judged. So from 47th place, we came down to 10th place when I was the National Cybersecurity Coordinator. Today, in the new revised format, we are in the topmost category. And they take a number of issues into account as to what are the organizational aspects, legal aspects, things like that. But having said that, and I said earlier, we are the most cyber attack nation in the world. So the reasons are that, you see, we are not like China. China has created a golden firewall around it. There are no apps which we use, which you can use in China. They have their own chat apps in Google and everything. So we are open, we are interconnected. So when you're interconnected, naturally the attacks will be more, right? But the government has taken a number of steps to protect national cyberspace. There are various agencies. We have created an agency called the I4C, Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, under the Ministry of Home Affairs that handles cybercrime. And that is filtered down to all the states. They have regional cybercrime coordination centers, they have district cyber cells, etc. Then we have a national CERT, Computer Emergency Response Team, which already has a cyber crisis management plan also. So we have catered for that. We have an institution called for the critical sector itself, NCIPC. And there are 7 critical sectors that we have identified. And we are doing cyber diplomacy. So at the national level, number of initiatives have we taken. You mentioned about the regulations. So the DPDP Act came out in 23. Then we had the Telecom Act also that came out in 23. And the minister recently said that the rules for the DPDP Act should be coming out before the winter session of the parliament. So I hope that happens, because then there'll be an 18-month period for implementation. And we hope that, privacy will be taken care of. So a number of guidelines, directives, and also for each sector, this is very important. You see, every sector has a regulator. So for example, the power sector, the Central Electricity Authority is the regulator. And they have come out with their own guidelines. Right. For the BFSI sector, RBI has come out with guidelines. SEBI has come out with guidelines. RDA, I'm talking of cybersecurity guidelines. So sectoral guidelines, national level aspects. So things are under control. And as I said, we are in the top of the GCI index.
Okay, so things are under control. I think that's heartening to hear. Dr. Pant, recently we saw what happened in Nepal. We've seen what happened in Bangladesh. Do you see the way that uprising went out of control, the kind of the impact that the protests had? Do you think it has something to do with cyber warfare as well?
In fact, in the previous session, when the minister was here, he was also talking of a new form of warfare. And what you're saying is right, actually, that influence operations and psychological operations is the new form of warfare, which is a part of hybrid warfare. So hybrid warfare is defined as warfare which is contact or non-contact, kinetic or non-kinetic, below the threshold of conventional wars. And this is what is happening around the world, by the way, right? So there is a term that is used which is called WOE, the weaponization of everything. So you find supply chains getting weaponized, you find weather getting weaponized. Why is Russia today attacking the Ukrainians in the energy sector and their neighborhood? Because their winters are coming, right? So whether it is rivers, whether it is dams, whether it is the social media, everything is getting weaponized. And what you're saying is right. I mean, we had this incident in Bangalore some years back, where a lot of people from the northeast were targeted, and it was all a rumor that started it, right? And there have been these color revolutions in various countries, and recently, as you said, in Bangladesh and Nepal. Social media needs to be regulated, but easier said than done.
That's right. So it's a fine line between freedom of speech and expression and ensuring safety and security. I want to ask you, Dr. Pant, that if there was one big capability that, according to you, India needs to work on to ensure its safety and as compared to its neighboring countries, for instance, China or even Pakistan, what is the one thing that we should work on to give us that edge?
I will tell you two things, not one.
Tell us 10.
One is we need a national cyber security strategy because our existing policy is of 2013 vintage. And a lot of things have changed. There was no crypto, there was no ransomware earlier, new age crimes have come up. So we need a new national cyber security strategy. That is one. Second is, in my opinion, we need an organization which is responsible and accountable for the protection of national cyberspace. You see, today there are 5 domains: land, air, sea, space, and cyber. For land, you have the army. They have a very clear role: protect the border, maritime border, navy, airspace, air force. Who is responsible for cyberspace? And if you see the government's directive, separate agencies have been made responsible. So MHA is responsible for cybercrime. CERT-N is responsible for incident response. And all these things are related. Right? And of course, my previous appointment as a National Cyber Security Coordinator, I was expected to coordinate amongst all the ministries, which is very difficult. We need a CEO. What the US recently has said, if you've seen Pete Hegseth's remarks, he says, I don't want to be called a secretary because secretary sounds like a lady. I want to be called the CEO of the Department of War. So coming back to my recommendation is that we need a national cyber security organization. All the countries around the world have done it. Israel has a national cyber security directorate. Singapore has a cyber security agency. China, of course, the Cyberspace Administration of China is directly under Xi Jinping. All the major developed countries have today, UK has a national cyber security center. All the major developed countries of the world today have created a centralized organization which is responsible for the protection of cyberspace, and that is what we need.
My last question, Dr. Pant, is on the challenges one faces when it comes to getting international consensus on board. Where cybersecurity cooperation is concerned. You have represented India on global forums, such as the World Economic Forum. You've also been at the Quad. How much of a challenge is it for the world to come together on this? And really, what should be the allies that India can bank on when it comes to its cybersecurity strategy?
So I gave you the example of the United Nations group of government experts, where every word is challenged. So when I made a statement that we should have trust, so our neighbor in the north, he says, what do you mean by trust? Define trust. So then for days, there's a discussion on, trust. So at international forums, it is very difficult to come to a consensus. What works, however, is what is called as the minilaterals. So Quad, for example, US, India, Australia, and Japan, we have created a very good mechanism of sharing threat intelligence, of sharing standards of various software experts, and interacting with their centralized agencies. So Quad, SCO, BIMSTEC, all these regional organizations, that is where you can see the results, but not at a very larger international level.
All right. One advice that you'd like to give to the government of India and to the industry representatives here?
I can't give advice to government of India, my pension may stop. But to my friends here, all I can say is be cyberspace. Be very, very careful. Just don't click. Because today, phishing is getting so targeted because of AI, deepfakes. You've all heard those stories. And you will get a mail after this that we were together in this event of Moneycontrol, and here is a photograph with just click on this photograph and you are there and General Pant
No,
is
no,
there.
we do no such thing. We don't send photographs.
So
we barely get pictures from our own event.
Anyway, I don't want any of you to lose money, or anyone for that matter who's watching this show. So because it is a hard, and that is it.
So don't click on anything. And with that, thank you very much, Dr. Pant. I'm sure all of us are going to go back a little more enlightened. Thank you so much to all of you for being a very engaged audience. And we'll, of course, keep tracking this story on Moneycontrol. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant General Pant, for enlightening thoughts. Thank you, Shweta. And with that, we draw curtain to the first edition of Moneycontrol and Sutra Presents India Web 3.0 Summit, powered by Binance. Thank you for being a part of this inspiring evening. A heartfelt thank you to all our speakers, moderators, delegates who made today's conversation so enriching. And a sincere thanks to our partners Sutra and Binance for helping us bring this vision to life. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us for dinner. Have a good night.